Swear we gon' die every day. They say Jesus gon' save us. Well, I know we die if we wait. I know we die if we can't. They tell us we black, but we ain't.
Welcome.
Yeah, we gon' die every day.
If you're just tuning in YouTube,
we been here, lived here, open borders, got deported, fought for
that part.
Kidnapped, bitch slapped, blacked out, covered up, washed white, drugged up, slugged.
You know what it is, man. It's Super Blaze, the campaign mix. The continuation right now. We on YouTube. We was on Mixcloud just now. So if you want to hear some more music, check us on Mixcloud. 8 o'clock.
He's gonna save us. Well, I know
we live. 8:30 we go YouTube, all right?
They tell us we black, but we ain't.
Campaign mix like no other, man.
Yeah, we gon' die.
Let's do it. Come on.
Cause we don't know where we came. We been here, lived here, open borders, got deported, fought for rights. Kidnapped, bitch slapped, blacked out, covered up, washed white, drugged up, slugged up, beat bread, left for dead, fuck your life. It's all a plan, kill your man, take your land, slave your kids, rape your wife. Why y'all look so mad if all this shit I say is true? Why y'all look so mad if all this shit happened to you? White man quick to tell you, you was a slave, nothing before. But he himself only been free since 1840. Don't record it, I'm an ancient Egyptian from Atlantis, headed straight for Canada, that's Israel. Nothing fake about me, no capping rapping, y'all just fed the ink and I'm digital. No caveman, I'm original. Kentucky fried, extra crispy, wear a lot of gold, cause my family history. I'm the guy to know, I bring death to history. Swear we gon' die every day. They said Jesus gon' save us. Well, I know we die if we wait. I know we die if he can't. They tell us we black, but we ain't. Aboriginal, native, yeah, we gon' die every day. Cause we don't know where we came. Swear we gon' die every day. They say Jesus gon' save us. Well, I know we die if we wait. I know we die if he can't. They tell us we black, but we ain't. Aboriginal, native, yeah, we gon' die every day. We'll die every day. We'll die every day. We'll die every day.
Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the kick. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100. Let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't tryna penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up need you could get your dinner ate.
Better stand strong out here in these streets, boy. You know what it is, man. Super Blaze campaign mix. Let's do it. Job breaks.
Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the kick. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100. Let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't tryna penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up need you could get your dinner ate. I ain't buying all that real shit. Dog, you benefit. Took her on a dinner date. Now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about autonomy, dog. We ain't tryna integrate. Man, we ain't tryna integrate. Was broke back then, now the youngin' seeing different kick. We don't go off feelings, we just make sure that the business straight. And if you ain't an intellect, then you can't get a penetrate. Local need you, now I'm getting love all in different states. Gotta need you, if you ain't got scars, then you can't relate. Preach the niggas, I'm just tryna make sure that my people straight. Woke nigga in a sleep world, tryna keep awake. Man, I'm just trying to keep awake. Bodies dropping in my city, damn Perry, keep awake. How another black man, your op, make it make sense. When the system got y'all niggas going through the same shit.
Shot the rock, what up, man?
As a youngin', I've been running, getting to the.
Let's do it.
Dog, you ain't 100, this 100. Let me do.
One time for Monte, raw trucking, what they do, bro?
I ain't trying to penetrate. And if
Sekhu said, what up, what up? Shout to the fans.
I ain't buying all that real shit. Dog, you benefit. Took her on a dinner date. Now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about autonomy, dog. We ain't trying to integrate.
Let me put some respect on Dr. Job Bricks real quick. Pull it back one time from the top. You know what it is. Super Blaze inside the mix campaign mix like no other. Let's do it, man. Oh.
Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the kick. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100. Let me demonstrate.
Shot to big OJ, what up?
I ain't tryna penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up need you could get your dinner ate. I ain't buying all that real shit. Dog, you benefit. Took her on a dinner date. Now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about autonomy, dog. We ain't tryna integrate. Man, we ain't tryna integrate. Was broke back then, now the youngin' seeing different kick. We don't go off feelings, we just make sure that the business straight. And if you ain't an intellect, then you can't get a penetrate. Local need you, now I'm getting love all in different states. Gotta need you, if you ain't got scars, then you can't relate. Preach the niggas, I'm just trying to make sure that my people straight. Woke nigga in a sleep world, trying to keep awake. Trying to stay woke, nigga. Man, I'm just trying to keep awake. Bodies dropping in my city, damn Perry, keep awake. How another black man, your op, make it make sense. When the system got y'all niggas going through the same shit. Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the cake. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100, let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't trying to penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up needy, you could get your dinner ate. I ain't buying all that real shit, dog, you been a fake. Took her on a dinner date, now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about a time to me, dog, we ain't trying to integrate. Say you shoot, what's your resume? Let me see the proof, drilling shit, where your gang at? Let me see your troops, getting money, pull up stunting on them. Let me see your crew, genocide, they pointing weapons at you. You don't even shoot, real nigga, how you say you real? You don't love your peeps, family man. Rhyme, feed your family, nigga, fuck the streets. Sliding on each other when the government the enemy. If we come together, we got power, nigga, in the beef. For real, nigga, in the beef. You ain't getting money, ain't no reason to be in the streets. Striving to be legends, we ain't trying to be a memory. And now you ain't my nigga, you my Niji Aborigine. Ever since a youngin', I've been running, getting to the cake. Dog, you ain't 100, this 100, let me demonstrate. If she ain't got brains, then I ain't trying to penetrate. And if you ain't a stand-up needy, you could get your dinner ate. I ain't buying all that real shit, dog, you been a fake. Took her on a dinner date, now we on the interstate. Might be a rookie in the game, but I've been a great. And we about a time to meet, dog, we ain't trying to integrate. Peace beyond the table, man.
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze, let's go.
DJ Super Blaze. It's in the mix.
It's been long overdue. Every time I took a L, man, I learned life. Where I'm from, you could get left if you don't turn right. Nowadays, you earn stripes, trying to burn pipes. Back in the days, we earned stripes, trying to earn rights. Look, I ain't trying to preach if you don't want to listen, but I advise you to listen if you love your children. Cause in this world, you could get stopped by a cop, and your kids might never know if they gonna see you or not. It's real. We unprotected and we unrespected. Rest in peace to Bree Taylor, hope y'all got the message. Our lives never matter, keep letting it happen. So what makes you think that it matters when you punch a ballot? We don't need equality, we need autonomy. We need our own governments, not apologies. We need our land back, not new technology. Aboriginal history, not new ideology. I ain't saying put the guns down, we need violence. Cops kill us, all the gangsters bet not be silent. We need to sit around and plan, we don't need riots. I grip my gun every time I see police sirens. Can't go to war with my brother if he weak-minded. You ain't a thug, you a warrior that need guidance. The Gullah Wars and the Haitian Revolution showed our ancestors really got violent for solutions, reparation, restitutions, preparation. Start recruiting. BLM is not our movement, but I get why it's confusing. Either you winning or you losing. We won't lose for long. So black man and black woman, what's taking you so long? Unite. And when I say unite, I'm talking about strictly autonomy. You know what I'm saying? We need to all have self-government. You know what I'm saying? We need to all come together as people and do for self. Period. If you ain't trying to do for self and you keep trying to depend on somebody, they're going to show you what you do when you depend on your enemy. Stop bricks.
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze, let's go.
DJ Super Blaze. It's in the mix.
Yeah, rhyme so dope, my eyes low. When you move like God, the time slow. I came back for the blacks and John Doe's. Crack open them land patents, let go of them townhomes. What's a native to a native? He $5 dough if he not melanated. Pale faces got you waiting on a savior. Sending prayers up, he texting back on vacation. Yeah. God's children, give all your praise to Jesus, but how God feeling? He say put no one before him in divine image. It's you with God and Christians. I got a vision, but niggas ain't gotta listen, so they don't. We came from the soil, wasn't fucking with no boats. Bible took our spirit, English potted on our homes. Tribal families turned on us, don't act like y'all don't know. But fuck them and they grudges. We was something turned to nothing. And now we nothing's turned to somethings. Reincarnation of ancients, fresh up out the oven. This the message to the black man. 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 Shooters on my roof, lawyers in the coop. We can never die, bitch, we bulletproof. This the message to the black man. This the message to the black man. You wasn't slaves, you was prisoners of war. You stop wasting your time, these other bitches ain't important. You ain't meditating, you ain't mating with the sauce. Like what the fuck's a noodle if you ain't painted with the sauce? I find it hard to trust the pastor who rather side with the master who preaching we should submit while getting murdered and captured about how we should wait on God. It's never our vernacular. They get paid and praised by the dollar long as they keeping us stagnant. And niggas think they woke, huh? Like you could change a whole world through a vote, huh? Like slave masters willing to let their slave go, huh? That slave master was probably your kinfolk, huh? History in reverse, a black king strategy. When blacks were your majesty, they always hide your pyramids but point to where the castles be. Aristocracies with your last name patented accurately. Yeah, I ain't even tell half the shit. Like, I ain't even tell a quarter of the shit. I'm just getting started. Y'all niggas rap about busting guns and all this weird shit. Hey man, all I'm saying is, nigga, you always got something to say. It's like you don't shut up. Placing on the track. A lot of niggas died in 1865. Took a flag out, wasn't gon' let it ride. Everybody hot and black was never on your side. They too mad to tell your apps where you sleep at night. They put that white man on. Got you begging them for answers like that white man know. Had you swearing you was African, that's that white man home. Had you proud to be a savage, that's that white man zone. And I ain't talking shit, this my definition. If being savage was our nation, y'all be non-existent. We done took your ass out when we was in them kitchens. Instead of showing you how to live and how to maintain business. White supremacy fake. Only way that shit real is if you do what they say. We the God to the gate. So when they say they fear God, now you know what they made. Shoot some, move some, shoot some, move some. Put us in the same room, he gon' go down. Hit a nigga with that boom, he gon' go down. Shoot some, move some, shoot some, move some. Put us in the same room, he gon' go down. Hit a nigga with that boom, he gon' go down. Every day my niggas dying, they don't know the truth. How the hell you close to God, we don't know it's you. Yo, how the hell you supposed to survive, we don't know the shoot. He should've died, you let him slide cause he look just like you. I try to tell him all skin ain't kin. Everybody ain't your partner, everybody ain't your friend. How the hell they supposed to help when they the ones that put you in? They don't struggle how we struggle, they can't get it how we live. Can't be scared to die, we already dead. Either way, your life is stake no matter how you play it. My higher self said we should choose remain godly. My lower want these motherfucking bodies. Infiltrate they circles like a motherfucking Audi. Take them to the south and put them down like OG Bobby. They don't want equality in this club, they want these problems. Killers right beside me, snap full of chicken marbles. Shoot some, shoot some, move some. Put us in the same room, he gon' go down. Hit a nigga with that boom, he gon' go down. Shoot some, move some, shoot some, move some. Put us in the same room, he gon' go down. Hit a nigga with that boom, he gon' go down.
No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't cross your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business, nigga. No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't cross your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business, nigga. No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't cross your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business, nigga.
Is in the mix.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze. Let's go.
No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business, nigga. No wonder why you don't get this.
Yes.
No, you ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's.
You know what it is, man. This is the Black Fez Mike Ether campaign mix. Let's go.
Come and take a look through my perspective. School of hard knocks was struggling, was my elective. Shit was reckless, so I had to always cock the heckler. Put under pressure, so that's why the shells would get projected. My mind protected, I stay focused, boy, if you ain't noticed. When they come to my thoughts, I'm an S63, you just a lotus. Your brain small and compacted. That's why you contracted to a big ass record label where the pay's lacking. But you ain't know that, too late to go back.
Shout to Love and Purpose, Wild Boy Mama.
Where to go that? I paint the picture, you can keep the Kodak. My cherry here to waste, I think it's time for me to go back to the realm, build it with supreme beings. Trying to build my mind and see what the Almighty seeing. Dark should come to light, so ain't no way that you can play us. I'm turning in my Black Fez for the Yvmvse, nigga. No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business. No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business.
They try so hard to keep it blind, but thank God I can see the light. Wanna keep me in the dark, but now you can see me shining bright.
Now come and take a look through my dimension. A young God, I just came down from my ascension. Protect the 12 tribes, guessing I'm just lost prevention. The type of things I'm seeing, guessing that I shouldn't mention. If I don't talk, then I believe in you up in the dark. Hate this shit, nothing saying that they use the heart. I'm thinking, what's the motive, killing parts of mankind? The type of shit that make me blow up like a landmine. So I collect my thoughts and build it with supreme beings. Trying to build my mind and see what the Almighty seeing. The dark should come to light, so ain't no way that you can play us. I'm turning in my Black Fez for the Yvmvse. No wonder why you don't get this. No, you ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business, nigga. No wonder why you don't get this. You ain't crossed your T's and you ain't got your I's. We got some unfinished business.
DJ Super Blaze is in the mix.
I've been building mounds, not a mouse, turkey pyramids, school of thought, follow God, fuck what your religion is. Y'all niggas look small from the view of my pyramid. Hey, look at that from my pyramid. Hey, I've been building mounds, not a mouse, turkey pyramids, school of thought, follow God, fuck what your religion is. Y'all niggas look small from the view of my pyramid. Hey, look at that from my pyramid. I've been building mounds, not a mouse, turkey pyramids, school of thought, follow God, fuck what your religion is. Y'all niggas look small from the view of my pyramid. Hey, look at that from my pyramid. School of thought, I was building mounds, all I did was dig. Now I'm building pyramids, mama, look at what I did. Cut off the leash, took off the hook. The world brainwashed off of just one book. Same book, told my mama turn the other cheek. Don't bring me no beats, that shit get cooked. Did my research, found out my worth, shit. I own everything on earth, that's why the Elohim built a young God like me to cast off who rocks pussy knockers in the dirt. Master ceremony, listen what the God say. Manifest life off of what I say. Parasite D-I-A-Y-A. Pour up the liquor, then I say I shake. I've been building mounds, not a mouse, turkey pyramids, school of thought, follow God, fuck what your religion is. Y'all niggas look small from the view of my pyramid. Hey, look at that from my pyramid. I've been building mounds, not a mouse, turkey pyramids, school of thought, follow God, fuck what your religion is. Y'all niggas look small from the view of my pyramid. Hey, look at that from my pyramid.
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze, let's go.
DJ Super Blaze is in the mix.
Sometimes it make your mind dissolve, trying to solve something not meant for you to solve. You got to search for inner peace. her inner peace. Sometimes you got too much involved trying to solve personal problems you should solve. You got to search for inner peace. Her inner peace. Check me out. To free my mind, I leave my house and hit the intercoastal. Sitting right in my backyard, this shit is really local. It's like my problems run away when I sit by the water. Meditating, sitting still, I become the water. Jump off the cliff of life, release my parachute of problems, everything's alright. At least that's what I tell myself until it hit the night. The spirit synchronized with my blood, I'm taking flight. My mind consumed. The devil said he moving in, but I ain't got no room. He wanna break me down and tell me up what I assume, but I just keep on grinding up to my top chakra, feeling like a Buddhist on a mountain, sitting proper, traveling God, moving through the cosmos, space and time. But all I really know, I'm at my zenith, familiar with my inner peace because I seen it. Sometimes it make your mind dissolve, trying to solve something not meant for you to solve. You got to search for inner peace. What? Inner peace. Sometimes you got too much involved trying to solve personal problems you should solve. You got to search for inner peace. Inner peace. Bonquisha had a baby, but that baby didn't make it. Feeling like she's all alone and can't no one related. She permed her hair, put in some weave and made her nails long. Aspirations of stripping and making millions. Packed it up, left her mom, moved to South Beach, hoping she could make a living off monogamy. But things changed when she met a G. She fell in love with the dream he sold and everything she sees. The big cars, Cuban lakes, and the real estate. Hoping he would take her to a realer place. She lost in the facade, things ain't what they seem. He left her for a girl that had some bigger dreams. She got no money, got no job, ain't nowhere to go. She ran back to her mama's house and broke down on the floor. Her mama told her, you stuck in the belly of the beast. You need to search for inner peace. Sometimes you got too much involved trying to solve something not meant for you to solve. You got to search for inner peace. Inner peace.
Ain't that the truth?
Make your mind dissolve, trying to solve personal problems you should solve.
Shout to that boy Mike Ether. Ether.
Inner peace.
Inner peace, man. You know what it is.
Hey, Timberlands, Nikes, or the flip flops. Go ahead and put it up.
You gotta look within, you know what I mean?
Timberlands, Nikes, or the flip.
Ain't nobody else's fault.
Go ahead and put
What's your fault?
I do it, we do it. It's
gotta get your ass up and do what you gotta do, you know what I mean?
Something simple on this one. Hey, sometimes to make your mind dissolve, trying to solve something not meant for you to solve. You got to search for inner peace. What? Sometimes you got too much involved, trying to solve personal problems you should solve. You need to search for inner peace. Woo!
Yeah, you listening to Super Blaze, let's go.
DJ Super Blaze is in the mix.
Yeah. Everything is authentic. High beams, wrist gleam coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you could do is witness. High beams coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you can do is witness.
Black drop back, my stacks is on greatness. High level shit off top, you can't make this. Fuck the beat off guard, now that's rapist. Top laid back, the beans, now that's weightless. Gotta excuse me, y'all, I might break this. Ain't a perfect picture, y'all boys gon' need facelifts. Fall back a few, they fiend for thy greatness. Better cut before you take this. Cashmere playing golf with my 9-9. King fall off, they know that I buy mine. Fucking with an OG and them fine lines. White Panamera on an all-time high. Shining since I came out the pussy, I blind guys. Eating with my team, you cannot define eyes. Squares out of circle, boy, I divide pies. Truth so big, cannot deny lies, huh?
High beams, risking coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you could do is witness. High beams coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, yeah, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you can do is witness. Overseas singing melodies while I'm lofting. Smoking these 5 trees, you know I'm comfy. Bitch so exotic, that pussy, you know I'm lost in. Asset, and location, you know I'm bossing. No Marriott, yacht master of my submariner. My work stay sabac with no man, I'm still cleaner. Talk like you got an army, but you ain't got no team. I just landed, nigga, smell like the Gulf Stream. You don't understand this, you better read a book. Look up Rap Genius, you better read my hook. I'm on another level, my shit be hard to reach. I can change religions, but they make it hard to preach. Thought you had friends, but you learned your lesson though. Pat these niggas down before you let them through the door. The game fucked up, I put it in the grapple. Painting pictures, nigga, Sistine Chapel. High beams, risking coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you could do is witness. High beams coming down your block. Painting pictures with these words, call me Basquiat. Everything authentic, we don't fuck with gimmicks. You can't rush the greatness, all you could do is witness.
Part of my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces.
Fire!
Bang, bang, bang. DJ Super Blaze is in the mix.
This could take quite a bit of time.
Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces. How the fuck you bummy and broke with a pair of races? My lineage free people of color with a left make each nigga. This right here maroon, now it ain't burgundy. If you plotting murder, I'm certain that you'll need surgery. Hurt from when the burner squeeze. Protecting tribe business. Only consulting with governments, tribe to tribe with it. Please don't confuse us with those considered native. Semi-autonomy never was in our nature. Just address me as Estelusti. Wild Indian status and Cherokees riding Ruchis. In my war bonnet, if you want it, bring it to your region. And black forces the same color the European. Part of my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy.
Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang.
This could take quite a bit of time.
Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces. How the fuck you bummy and broke with a pair of races? My lineage free people of color with a left make each nigga. This right here maroon, now it ain't burgundy. If you plotting murder, I'm certain that you'll need surgery. Hurt from when the burner squeeze. Protecting tribe business. Only consulting with governments, tribe to tribe with it. Please don't confuse us with those considered native. Semi-autonomy never was in our nature. Just address me as Estelusti. Wild Indian status and Cherokees riding Ruchis. In my war bonnet, if you want it, bring it to your region. And black forces the same color the European. Part of my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white Aborigines. Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines, but you don't let them be called an Aborigine.
Turn up. Turn up. You heard me? Yeah. Turn up. It's the autonomous party. You already know what it is. That was Blaze with the campaign mix each and every Sunday, 8 to 9 o'clock. You already know. Thank y'all for tapping in live with us. Music Media Lounge. Shout out Music Media Lounge. You already know what it is. .com. You know what I mean? MusicMediaLounge.com. We live in the place. You know what I mean? I got to give my man. Shout out to man Tag, my man Tig, and the whole team. And you know what I mean? Shout out to all my people, obviously in 305-954, of course, Fort Lauderdale, Lickerdale, you know what I'm talking about, Tequesta Territory, 561, you know what I mean? That's local, all the local people that's tuned in through Music Media Lounge, and obviously through the Mixcloud. You just went back to the Mixcloud today, too. So shout out to that. We're going to be doing that, Blaze, from first part of our campaign mix, because, you know, YouTube won't let us play all the music we want, but Mixcloud will, so some of the campaign mix we'll be having to take part on the Mixcloud in the beginning, and then we're going to give you all that good indigenous independent stuff before we start the podcast. You know what I mean? So shout out to everybody that's, you know, tapping in with us. You can go obviously check us out on all these different channels and platforms. You know what I mean? Before we pull our guests up for tonight, though, and again, it's going to be a good one. You already know the Heart's reality is through the campaign. The Heart's reality is live life autonomously. That's the campaign. Shout out to all the members of the party. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Got to give a big shout out to my wife this weekend and my man Baron P. You know what I'm saying? It's Virgo season. It's almost coming to an end, though. You know what I mean? But shout out to my Virgos. Y'all had a nice run. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, y'all had a nice run. You know what I'm saying? From my mom, dudes, my godmother. You know what I'm saying? Nancy, and then Baron P. You know what I mean? Y'all had a nice run. But this weekend she had a party. Shout out to everybody at the party that pulled up on us. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all. You already know what it is. Last night we turned up. But at the same time, you know, what they call in Zoe, what they call Haitian culture, they make a certain type of rice, right? And you know what I'm saying? This type of rice, you know what I mean? It's like it's what Jun. How you saying it right? John, right? It's John rice, right? And it's black, you know what I mean? Not as black as me, but that's what they call it black. You know what I mean. But either way, though, I want to show you something that was funny because last night we had it. You know, it was one of the rices we had, and it was good. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't never had it, but at the same time, it had mushrooms and stuff. That's what makes it turn the color. So I want to show you something that we came across, being that just last night at the party, we're partying, we had that rice. One of my wife's aunties did bring it through. You know what I mean? So we had a nice little accessory of foods. You know what I mean? So check this out, though, before we pull our guests up real quick. And just want to share this with Dr. Sebi had this to say about this rice. You know what I mean? So tap in with us. God of Green. Shout out to everybody again. God of Green, Baron P, Super Blaze. Shout out my man Firebird. Yeah, this is it right here. We're going to get right to it.
That only comes from one country. Haiti. It's a little mushroom this size. If you take this show and you cook it with the white rice, it will change the white rice from dextrose to dextrin. It changes the molecular structure. It's no longer acid because the mushrooms, as you know, the mushroom world is the highest electrical world there is in the vegetable kingdom. This is why the Russians use the mushroom to clean up Chernobyl. The nuclear waste in Chernobyl, mushroom clean it up.
Crazy, right? That's crazy, right? What the mushrooms can do. Got a Green say even frying mushrooms it tastes like chicken. You know what I mean? But at the same time, anybody that don't know, check that out. You know what I mean? He said it changed the whole miraculous. How you say that? What's the big word? Molecular structure of that bad boy. You heard me? So I just thought that was interesting. We just had some last night. When I saw that today, I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to play that. Shout out to Nancy. You know what I mean? My wife. You know what I mean? Happy birthday. Again, shout out to all the Virgos. You know what I mean? We're going to move forward, though. Shout out to everybody in the chat once again. I think our guests are here with us. We could pull up. Let's get to it. Pull up. Pa! Hey. Sekhu. What they do?
Family. What go on? What go on, my family? Chintamo, Etoklo, Yate.
Owa. You know what I'm saying? Hincha. Harry, all that good stuff. How y'all doing, man?
Escamo, Maku, Be Maku.
Hadjo. Chintamo, Yate. Etoklo. You good?
Yeah, man. I'm good, man. It's been a minute, man. It's good to see you.
Well, you ain't aging. I see you're not aging. You ain't got no gray hairs like me, Mac. What's going
What do you
on?
mean? What do you mean? You don't see all these grades?
Oh man, don't
I gotta
start
keep it low.
that.
I gotta keep it low just so people don't see the grades. And it's worse. I'm gonna get it's bad over here. It's bad over here. It's gray everywhere. It's gray everywhere. Now, from the last time you see me, man, hey, I'd rather be gray and be here than be under the ground and not have no grades at all. You feel me?
That's a fact. 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 Oh, is you about as gray as you gonna get under the ground with them bones?
That part, you heard me? Yeah. You know, man, crazy enough, because people might not know. Obviously, I want you to introduce yourself because your first time coming on the show. Paul, you can go after because you've been on the show before. So, Chief Sekhu, introduce yourself, man, and who you represent before we get into things, man, so people can know.
No problem. You know, it's customary. One of the things that we, and I don't care what word or terminology you like to use, is all we're trying to make as the first people. But what is customary for our people always to introduce ourselves in our native tongue. This is what we did ourselves and our bloodline. So, you know, Animiki Siku Hola Chito Lami Yamassee Hadjo, Miku Yamassee Yate, Yvmvse Erepaka Hadjo, Tukosi Matle, prior chiefs of the Seminole tribe and nation. Rough translation again is I am Chief Sekhu of the Yamassee Indian tribe, grandson of two head chiefs, one being John Hicks, known as Tukosi Matla, and the other being Sam Jones, the most notorious Seminole warrior to ever grace the war field. And it's my pleasure to be on this show. That's right, the Jones. That's right.
You know, I got that on my side. You already know. Hey, you know, it's crazy because a lot of people don't know, once again, Pa, how I met you, and then I'm going to go into how I met Sekhu, because I met you before I met Sekhu, and I met you in Louisiana. So, Pa, you can introduce yourself, because I know you got with Sekhu, and you family, and everything plugged in, so I want you to tell your side real quick before we get to things. You heard me?
All right, I like to go ahead on and introduce myself, right? Ani Yati Yamassee Tatupa Kawatali Pokokalago, right? So I just went ahead on and said that I am Yamassee and my family is of the Panther clan, right? And my village is Pokokalago, right? So that's my family. And Sekhu, I'm related to him on his mother's side of the family. And the thing about it is that how all this is intertwined with one another, right? You met me in Louisiana at the Washington Juneteenth celebration, right? And dealing with that on my grandmother's father's side of the family is Bagula, which is also known as Chito, or what it became known as Chawasha or Washita, right? So that's all family, all tied in dealing with the ancient mountain builders.
Turn up, you feel me? It was a bright day that day, Pa, at Poverty Point. You know what I mean? And since you said synchronicity, I'm gonna tell you some crazy stuff about when I met Sekhu. Sekhu, as you know, I went to that conference. After we left the conference, I put my own conference on. How long ago was this? 12,
almost 12
13 years ago, easy.
Yeah.
About that, Kofi. Yeah, Kofi here, by the way. Yeah. And you came down with your mom. Shout out to your mom, Red Crow. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And you guys came to the conference. Y'all spoke, representing Yamassee. We had Washita there, some of the council members representing the Washita. It was a great, you know what I mean, conference. A lot of elders, as you know. I think I felt like I was the youngest person in the building as far as being involved. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To be honest with you, me and God agreeing, I think we were the youngest guys, you know what I mean, involved with the whole thing at this time. But we put it on. You know, the youngest ones are the ones putting on the conference, right? So a lot of things have grown. Obviously, after that, you know, you invited me to a powwow, but then you also came down. Didn't you come down first? You left and you came back down to a Seminole powwow, right? And that's the second time you came down, right? Am I right about that? Okay, boom.
That's correct.
And then from there, I came up to Tampa to a powwow that y'all had up there. Am I on timeline right? Okay.
You're on timeline right, correct.
And then from there, you came and got me, and you took me with you to South Carolina, Allensdale, to see you guys get the key to the city. Am I right about that?
Facts.
I'm honored for you to come pick me up and take me to be able to see this. You know what I mean? And witness. I'm a witness. So people tell like, oh, okay. I saw how that city and them people were acting. Let me tell you something. And I'm telling you as a witness to what the tribe has been able to do at that time. You all right, Paul? You know,
Yeah.
at that time. Shit, make sure you're okay now. It felt like you fell for a second. It was all right. You know what I mean?
That was the thing.
That's senior moment. That's a senior moment.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we got to the key to the city in the situation with the Yamassee and the Yuchi was recognized, right? And yeah, he's blanking out. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah,
when that happened, okay, yeah, when that happened, though, I got to see for myself, like I was saying, how the city reacted, and most of the people living in the city not being aware of the fact that people look like us are the ones that they're recognizing to give the key to the city to, because of the oldest lineage in certain wars that took place in that area of what we call Allensdale, South Carolina. You know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I swear the thing that I didn't know until I got there was that the war of the Sakahatchee War of 1865. And that year threw me for a loop because of the fact that in 1865, I'm like, wait a minute though. We don't really hear about the Yamassees in different groups in these areas fighting a war going into 1860. That's the Civil War time frame, you know?
Right.
And most people always talk about the Yamassee. They go back to 1715. You know what I mean?
Right.
Most times, the most popular one. You know what I mean? They don't know before that. They don't know after that. They only know most likely the 1750 Yamassee War, right? So, and most people think the people got exterminated after the 1715 situation or some case, you know, however the case might be. But I want you to speak on that. And I got a couple of sources to throw around so people can look at it. I want you to tell me what you think about the sources, you know what I mean, for this conversation and dialogue we're having, you know what I mean? But what you think, you know, anything you want to add on to that, and then Paul, you can go after.
So, you know what I mean, just to be able to clarify what you're talking about when you're talking about the War of 1715, a lot of people are firstly unaware that there was a war in 1715 called the Yamassee War, and what it was fought based on, what the premise of the war was about. So if we start there and then work our way into the 1865 time frame, we can make things a little bit more clear. So in early 1500s, 1600s, when the colonists came over, the Europeans came to the New World, and they saw a group of people that they identified as Negroes, right? And these Negroes, they called them Negro Indians, right? And again, I've been trying to make myself very clear, because even through as much history and knowledge that is out there, and as much documentation that's out there, you still have the ignorant people that's still saying these are Africans pretending to be Indians. However, when you go back to the root of the word Indian, which is from indigo, it definitively describes what the Indian people look like. Now, the pictorial evidence that we have support this. The congressional documentation supports this. But the thing that we tend to forget is that the Yamassee War, which a lot of people still don't know about, was based on unfair trade practices and also slavery. Slavery of the indigenous people, the people who they first came and saw, the people who was helping them settle into the new world, the people who helped them hunt, the people who protected them. Something that most people don't realize is, again, and I like to reiterate things in previous interviews that I speak out because they're monumental in its way, is the Yamassee was the first coast guard for, quote, this country. You know what I mean? We sat on the coast, which is here in the Allendale, Beaufort area, and we protected the shoreline for the colonists. Now, the Yamassee War was that starting point, but it was not the first war. It was only considered the bloodiest war next to King Philip's, because again, what happened was, which was documented, it was 19,000 Yamassee that came together and attacked the Europeans here, right? And they'll try to sit here and downplay the amount of people that we killed, but at the end of the day, you don't consider the bloodiest war with 400 people being killed, and you don't have 19,000 warriors assemble because they're going to kill 400 people. You know, we did a lot of killing, but again, it was based on slavery. It was based on our children being raped. It was based on our women being raped. It was based on many different factors. And then what they did was they created this paper genocide, and this is what's going to go into that whole 1865 reference that you use. The paper genocide came real simple. When we were befriended by these colonists, i.e. Oglethorpe and Craven and the likes, and Hampton and the rest of these generals and people who fought against, they knew where we put our people when we went to war. They knew that Salkehatchie was a place and a refuge that we sent our elders, our women and children who were unable to fight. But just to show you the dynamics of how these people operate, they went there, they killed our elders, they put our children and women in slavery, and then they claimed victory. Okay? And they used other Native American slaves that we had given them, literally in war and battle, to do so. You know what I mean? That's what those Negroes that helped fight with them. Now again, let me be definitively clear, because you have the hypocrites who will say, oh, those weren't Indians, those were Negroes, and y'all are trying to mix truth and facts. But no. Let's be very clear. There were a mixture of Native people who were identified as Negroes who mixed in with the African people. And this is how they were able to do this, because we looked so much alike. Now, that is monumental, because the historical documents solidify and prove everything I say. Everything that I'm saying is factually proven. I love it when people get mad at me for bringing up something they haven't researched themselves. You know what I mean? I love it when they get mad at me and act like I'm making up something, because I can't make it up. You know what I mean? This is not my personal references. This is not how I personally feel. This is factual information that has been documented and is available for everyone right now. So now to go move forward, that 1865 war, and why we don't realize this was still the Yamassee fighting is because, again, Negroes. They're using the word Negro synonymous now with the Native American people. Right. And so when we look at the word Negro today, our lack of understanding automatically becomes African Americans. And so when you use the word African American, now you're referencing people taken from one continent to another in slavery. Okay, so we've intermingled these words in ways that they become, quote, common to people that we overplay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just, everything you're saying is what we've been covering on our platform. So I think that most people should, at this point, should understand what you're saying. So I want people just to know that he's not lying. You know what I mean? You're not lying at all. You know what I mean? I want to make sure too, when you were talking about the Yamassee War, for people that might, again, because you got people that might not have never heard about this information. So I'm trying to be elementary, you know what I'm saying? In some cases, it's about letting people see. So you, like I said, people might not do the research. So can we pull up the Yamassee War from the, I think it's Encyclopedia or Britannica, real quick, just so people can see that real quick. You know what I mean? And I'll let you tell me what you think about it. And Pa, again, you know, you can tap in when you need to. We're having a conversation now. You know, we know each other. We all know each other for a little while now. We ain't new.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I like to go back to what Chief was speaking about in the 1500s. And it's very pivotal, right, that people have to know about the 1500s too, because we not only fought the British in the 1700s, but we fought the Spanish as well in the 1500s, in the 1600s, because they tried the same thing that before the British did. You see, they tried to enslave our people and everything, and they brought some of our people over there to Spain. That's where everybody them using the mills when they say they looked like Ethiopians, you know, when they were selling them on the trade blocks as Negroes up there in Spain, you know. And so happening deal with that, we wind up going into the Carolinas before it even became known as Georgia, because what most people don't understand is that was also our territory as well. So dealing with that, at this time, you know, you get a lot of people that's like in the blog group called the what that is, the final battle. It was like, oh, the Yamassee and them were slave traders. And I was like, oh, honor me, my cher. Actually, the Westos and them was the ones that kicked it off first. All right. So now we the Yamassee, now the rabbit got the gun. So now it ain't fun when the rabbit got the gun. So, you know, the British them were like, oh man, they done beat the Westos. So now the Yamassee is the power now. We got to become allies of the Yamassee, you know? So the Spanish in them hear this like, oh damn, they friends with the British. but they just whipped our behinds. So now the British go trying to utilize that to fight against us. But yet we not knowing that all of them was a part of the Holy Roman Morisco Empire. We didn't know that.
Well, you know what I mean, when you deep dive into it, it gets a little bit more even cynical and more calculated than that. When you start talking about the history of our people, we are one of the more ancient of people, and you hear this in the tone and language within the Cherokee and the Catawba. You know, they call us their ancient people. But when you look at the Yamasee, that thing everyone is now talking about, the Confederacy of the Yamasee people, is because we've had the largest known nation. I mean, way before the existence of Upper and Lower Creek was created, way before the Cherokee Confederacy and all these different things, there was only the Yamassee Confederacy. There is never a reference to the Cherokee Confederacy or the Upper and Lower Creek Confederacy before the Yamassee. And a large part of what I like to share with people is if you deep dive into the Yamassee and all the different derivatives and names that was given to us, you'll understand just how old we are as a nation and as a civilization. And all the different spellings, because with each different spelling, with each different name and the way it was spelled comes its own unique history. You know, we as Yamassee was called the Iguaha. That's an ancient name, literally the Iguaha. You know, we have reference to the Wali. We have, you know, what I mean, all these different spellings. And again, each one of these spellings come with its own unique history. Now, to go into and tap into the whole slave trade aspect of it, okay, we're family. Let's do an analogy. We're family. Pa is over here in Louisiana. Mac, you're down in Miami. I'm in South Carolina. Pa's over here, and I'm just going to use this. Pa's over here selling donuts, and he's good at selling damn donuts. And Pa creates this franchise, and it is popping off. And people are like, the donut branch of the Yamassee is over here getting it in. And then Mac, you and Kofi's down in Miami, and y'all are selling coconuts, right? But that's what you're doing. And then we're up here, we're pushing cattle or beavers, right? History tries and outline a complete story. So Magnum is selling coconuts. That's what the Yamassee did. They sold coconuts and they were good at it. And blah, no. That is just one facet of our family and what they did that was documented, right? Because history gets obscured in all of the different narratives that exist. And this is proven because in 1865 in Alabama, there was a group of Yamassee doing XYZ. And then in 1865, there's another group of Yamassee that's over here at war and fighting. And then in 1865, over here in Miami, down in the Glades, there were another group of Yamassee that was doing this. My point is that it's so obscured and our outlook on history is so linear that we tend to forget that these are only historical narratives by the author or the person who's writing it. This is not the complete story of the Yamassee. So when you say the Yamassee were slave catchers and traders, that was not the broad representation of the entire Yamassee nation. You know what I'm saying? It was not what we all did as Yamassee. And that's obvious when you look at the history, when you start looking at the timelines and the things that's not all we did. We just captured Native Americans because first and foremost, who we're capturing? Ourselves, right? You know what I'm saying? So much of the history is obscured and hidden from us that you have to deep dive. This is why I be telling people like the Yamassee story is the best untold story there is. This is the story that it comes up with so many different chapters and branches and plots and twists and all the different things. You're like, wow, like what's going on? And even with myself, the more I researched into our history and what we were and who we are and what has happened and all it, I tell people there was little pieces you get them little puzzles you used to get when you were young, and it was so they started us out with the big pieces of the puzzle, right, to make a picture, and then eventually we got older. The older we got, the smaller the pieces of the puzzle became, so that now you're actually putting portions of a portrait together versus the picture of the big bird and things like that. Well, that's the Yamassee. There is so many different little pieces of the puzzle that's painting this portrait that there is no one piece that you're going to definitively get a straight answer through the complexity of who we are as First Nation people and who we are as the indigenous and Aboriginal people. And that's the thing that hurts me more than anything, that people will streamline a historical narrative of people who've been around for centuries, and they're now proving that we've been here well over 20,000 years, right? And you're gonna summarize a people into this micro topic and situations and make it just so simplistic, and no one think like, why, how do you have the accounts of these people from the early 1490s, early 1500s, all the way up to modern day, quote, Seminoles, and you simplify it as there was a Yamassee war, they killed people, they put people in slavery, they no longer exist. That's the streamlined version of how they try to say the Yamassee is. And so, go ahead.
No, because I catch people all the time too. You know what I mean? As you know, because of me knowing and being part of the culture and having got Seminole as a Jones, Muskogee lineage. You know what I'm saying? Literally, when I found these things out, and then found out more, especially with meeting you and your family and what you guys have been able to show me as well, was what happened in South Carolina and what you was doing in Tampa and all the things you got going on now. And it's just from a cultural heritage standpoint, the like you said, the Yamassee storyline seems to be obscure. People like to say it's pseudo or something. I will say, because of this, and when I first met you, I asked these questions. So I ain't gonna be scared to ask them live. You feel me? But I remember how there was so much confusion going on with this word Yamassee because it became popular with other movements and groups of people who want to use the term for them as well. So because of that attachment, it leads to an obscure even more. Or is this a real thing or not? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you, I remember you had to make that very clear. Like, nah, we're not these people over here. We're not into like the Nawabians. You know what I mean? Right. And I ain't trying to be disrespectful to the Nawabians out there.
No,
you know
of course
what I mean?
not. Of course not. No.
They have the right to believe and do what they do. That's what they do. Right. I'm not here to get at nobody about what they doing. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's a whole nother thing. But Nawabians did, obviously, because of Dr. Malachi Z. York, they did use the term Yamassee. I found out about Yamassee in books in the 90s because of Dr. Malachi Z. York. You know what I'm saying? Right, just like I heard about the Washita because of Dr. Malachi Z. York. You know what I mean? Right. You had to go do your research outside of that movement, though, to go clarify really what the real group of people are and who really is tied to the family of these groups of people. Right. And that needs to be clarified. So I want you to speak on that, please.
Well, you know what I mean? If we look at anyone who is in the conscious movement and have been in the conscious movement for any time of your life, it was sort of hard not to know certain people as a person of, quote, color. I mean, the man did so much and talked about so much, and he disrupted a lot of different things at that time, that if you were any way, fashion, or form into esoteric, healing, conscious thinking, any of that, you was going to run across this man's information, right? So no, there is no negativity when it comes to however you identify. All of us have been reading some form of someone's books, whether it was Minister Louis Farrakhan, whether it's whoever at that time was making a conscious movement. You couldn't get past that. But what we did find was that when people became aware of the description of the Yamassee, everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Everybody wanted.
He cut off.
What we have to look at is real simple, that and I love when people use the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, the UNDRIP. I love that analogy because it says that you have the right to self-identify, right? I can't take away anyone's right to self-identify. You can identify as a damn dog. It's not my battle, right? But here's the real issue that I have. Identifying as something does not make you that, because it comes with cultural awareness. And I say this to people who proclaim to be African American. I'm going hard on Instagram about, hey, are you culture vulturing the African culture? Because if you're African American, have you proven you're African American? Why aren't you set under the same standards as Native Americans that you have to prove that you are? Okay, so identifying oneself is by choice. Now, at this point, it's also about what makes you Yamassee, right? And it's not a bunch of damn paperwork. And that's been the thing I've been saying to people forever. It's not about the paperwork. It's not about trying to take anything back. that we don't deserve or haven't earned. And one of the things that I quickly understood with this whole aspect of the indigenous movement of people of color was that this was more so about taking things back and reclaiming. And not just that, avoiding responsibility, right? But a large part of that avoidance of responsibility came with the taking advantage of people. So these different groups and these different people are out here proclaiming to do something and offering false promises to people and taking their hard-earned money. And that part wasn't right. That wasn't right because that's not cultural. The first thing I realized as chief and when I became appointed chief was that it couldn't be a money thing. It's not about the money, right? I don't want the money. Our people came with honor. Our people fought the great fight, bro. And wasn't nobody talking about that. Everyone was talking about treaties and documents and all these different things that really got us nowhere, right? The UN, the United States government, like, okay, you're saying the same thing these other Mongoloid-looking Indians are saying. And what do they have right now? What do they have? You know what I'm saying? They're still arguing the same thing. You aren't honoring treaties. You aren't. So I'm sitting here looking at this whole thing, and I'm like, no one's focused on the culture. No one is focused on who we were, what our ancestors did. If you're truly Yamassee, you care more about what was lost and why it was lost than it is trying to take advantage or make money from people. And that's what I saw. I saw people taking hundreds of, I can't even make this up. It had to be 10, $20 million the Yamassee was worth at one time because people were selling documentation and paperwork and just identifying as Yamassee and all just because the Yamassee looked black. And I said, no, that's not cool. So one of the things that I did that others weren't doing, I was like, hey, here you go. Let's stop. Let's back all this up. Let's back all this up. Here's my bloodline. Here's my connection directly to the Seminole people. Here it is on my mother and my father's side. And I gave it to those who were astute. I gave it to the historians. I gave it to the anthropologists. I gave it to the archaeologists. Y'all have at that. And I let them prove who we were, not me self-proclaim. Because I knew that was the difference. Everyone was talking Yamassee and everyone was screaming Yamassee, but no one was saying, I'm tied to. Everything was self-proclamation. Oh, so-and-so and so-and-so is my great-great-great-grandmother, and he was a chief, and he's this, and he's that. Okay, prove it. Prove it. You can write anything you want. You can proclaim anything you want, but there has to be a genealogical connection. And no one was doing that. They were self-proclaiming to be. And you knew that this mattered to people. It didn't matter to me because, again, it was all about documentation that people were getting and using other people as guinea pigs. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that as a Native American. I'm not going to do that as a chief. My focus was what my brothers and sisters' focus wasn't, because at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, even if we're not related, we're all related because there's a creator. There's a great mystery, a being that created all of us. So we're all brothers and sisters. So I will never shun anyone when it comes to that part of it. But what I understood was my journey wasn't your journey. My journey wasn't Pa's journey. My fight wasn't none of what that was the warriors. That's what y'all had to do on that end.
Right.
My journey was to bring honor and esteem and what's the word I'm looking for? Bring the culture back so that it was honorable. And so you watched that. Pa watched me do that. Pa, y'all saw me not focus on money and charging people these absorbent amount of fees to join our tribe when our tribe wasn't even in good standing with people because we were extinct. So the first thing that had to happen was let them write the story again. And you've seen that happen. You know, they've rewritten a history book now. Yamassee Indians from Florida to South Carolina. PBS have done documentaries, you know, and they're saying, hey, these are the Yamassee people, and can you tell us your story? Jose Ortiz, you know, they're doing underground railroads and interviews, and they're wanting the story of the Yamassee people. You know what I'm saying? The story now is being recognized and understood by those who truly are historians, and they're following the breadcrumbs, and they're saying, these are honorable people. These are the actual real Yamassee. They are practicing the way we know that these people practice. And once we started turning around that narrative, because you got to realize at one point in time, it wasn't good to be Yamassee. Remember, Yamassee it was a cult. I mean, it was literally labeled just a cult. It wasn't even an Indian tribe no more. It was literally called a cult. Right. And that was one of the hiccups that we had to overcome. And let me explain to people. There is no greater challenge as a man than to be standing out there by yourself alone, screaming at the top of your lung in an ocean by yourself swimming. There is no greater hardship than to be attacked and people walk away from you and step away from you until they figure out if you figured it out. You know what I'm saying? And and getting death threats and all this other stuff that comes along with that. You get what I'm saying? So when people look at this story and they see what happened and the separation that I had to put in place, because I wanted people to realize that we're not those people. We don't want your money. We want you as a person to understand who you are, your connection. That if you're Yamassee, come home. But if you're not connected to Yamassee, you may be something else. You may be Washita. You may be Blackfoot. You may be Cherokee. You may be everyone that's black isn't Yamassee. I just wanted the honor of our people to be taken serious because of the underlying story of what our ancestors did, and that was being overshadowed by all the other nonsense and the UCC1 codes and all this other BS that was being portrayed. So ancient people who fought a war and the most historical war in history was being overshadowed by, quote, the word cult. And I thought that was so unfair, and my heart literally would not allow me to let that happen anymore. So yes, and let me say this, every one of these groups I've extended myself to. Everyone who said they were Yamassee, I extended myself to. Hey, come here, let's talk. From the Nuwaubians to the Moors to whoever said they wanted to connect and talk and sit down and celebrate, let's go. The only thing I ever said was bring the paperwork and lineage, bring your connection, because the federal government looked at this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I realized that because these same people was sicking the federal government on me. Every time they did something, it was, oh, it's them. Because we were the only people that you could put your finger on. You knew what we were. You knew where we are. We know where we at, right? So I'm sitting here having to explain to the federal government, that ain't us. That ain't what we do. This is not what we do. I'm walking them on the land, and I'm having conversations with them, and I'm telling them what our goal is and what we're trying to do as a tribe and as a nation. And I'm telling them, I know we don't have enough damn guns to fight y'all. What I look like putting my babies and children at risk to try to take over something or file some kind of, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We live in a day and age now where we have to think smart, right? And the way that we do this is informing people of the history they don't know. Because the first thing that we have to do, Mac, if you say that you are a barber, you have to prove that you're a barber, right? You got to show I can cut. And that's one of the things that I did. Like, we exist. This is what we look like. Don't be mad at us. This is our culture. This is our heritage, right? And I had to slow down information out. I had to slow down a little bit because I was giving too much information.
And this is our tradition.
And these are our traditions.
Right.
But I had to limit our traditions and what I was teaching, because now you're empowering the people who were taking advantage of people, right? Because the more I put out, the more they was copying, right? And the more they was trying to connect to us. So, you know, it's so much behind the story, brother. And I'm glad you asked the separation of difference, because people tend to forget that there is a difference between us. People also tend to forget that we did extend ourselves, and we've always extended ourselves, because we're not nasty, benign people that just, you know, think we're just top dog. No, that's not it. The only thing that we wanted was honor brought back to the name of Yamassee. Something that you feel comfortable bringing your family to, events that you felt good bringing your wife and your grandmother or your aunts them to, without having to worry about guns being, you know, pulled on them and raids happening and the FBI coming and all this other stuff, because that's not what we're about. We're about knowledge. We're about informing people, and we're about celebration of our culture and our ancestors. And that's what we focus on. We have no place in selling people false hopes or dreams. And this is not an attack on anybody. I'm just saying that there are people out there that do take advantage of the indigenous people, their names. I've again reached out to these brothers and sisters who claim to be of truth. And I've said, hey, don't do this, don't do that. That's dishonoring our ancestors. That's dishonoring my people and what they fought and died for. You know, there's a way to do it. If you know that these people are claiming in Yamassee, or you've done your investigation and you found that they have a Yamassee ancestry, bring them to us. Let us do it the right way, and stop doing this other stuff. Because the downside to that is, when you are part of these organizations that are willing to sell you something that you didn't have to prove, you should question that, right? It's like credit worthiness. If I'm gonna give you some credit with not checking your background, are you gonna pay it back? Don't even make sense to me, right? So, and then in the name of that, you are giving people identities. You're giving them identities, and you don't know who these people are. Case in point, I found a couple people who were saying they was Yamassee, and I was contacted by Homeland Security. People carrying Yamassee identification cards, or what? They weren't ours. We didn't issue them, but Yamassee identification cards. And these people are going on the fake pseudo names, and they were wanted for child molestation. They're wanted for murder, right? And I'm sitting here like, oh, that's a federal crime within itself, because that is aiding and abetting. You're helping aid and abet someone who's wanted for child molestation. You want this person to get away. You're not doing no background checks on the people that you're bringing in, and you're giving them titles and names, and everyone's a chief now, and all of them are tied to the Yamassees, because we have openly explained what the Yamassee look like now. So now everyone wants to piggyback off, go back now to being Yamassee. Remember, again, it wasn't cool to be Yamassee for a while because it was all tied to a quote cult. And so now we've proven who we are, and the genealogists and historians have proven who we are, and they've said it, even though you still have the small group of naysayers, you know what I mean? But they've proven that these people do exist, and they do exist, and here they are. Here's the remnants of them. Here's their descendants, and here's their leadership, and here's where they are. Now it's all of a sudden Team Yamassee again, but it's Team Yamassee in the sense of, if I have a tribal ID card that shows that I look black, it's still connected to this tribe who've told you why I look black. But oh yeah, by the way, I'm wanted for molesting 16 children back here in Iowa, or I'm wanted for murdering 3 or 4 people back here, or you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, that's the thing that's hurting us the most right now. That if you really respect, if you really claim to be of an indigenous culture and our identity, and you know that we're honorable people, if it's the honor that you want to reconnect with, then be honorable. Be honorable. You know what I'm saying? If you can't find one drop of native bloodline, say, hey, can I petition to be adopted? That's fine. Now, y'all can't chop it up with, the core of us. You can't, make core decisions for the family, but we can say that's still family. You know what I mean? So there's a right and a wrong way to do things, is all I've been saying. And again, I'll say this to anyone, and I've had these conversations with many of these brothers and sisters, like, don't do that to the. We don't have the money like that. Our people don't have the resources like that to be finagled and to be paying tens of thousands of dollars for false promises and hopes. And then what you've done is you've left such a nasty taste in people's mouth about the indigenous people and indigenous culture, that when they do meet a MacArthur or a God of Green, a Kofi or Chito Pa, it's met with such hostility because you've been treated a certain way. Right? And that's not who we are. We've always just wanted to help people find freedom. And freedom starts in the mind. Once the answers have been given to you, once you've been taught that you are part of something great, once you realize that you're not just this nigga, this bad guy, because cartoons always portrayed the bad guy to be in black, which just coincidentally, we happen to wear that title, black, that every time you see the bad guy, evil is always represented with dark or darkness or black, the word black. Now that we've put light to, there were people who were here helping save the world, who helped form America, who helped, and not just America, throughout the world. Throughout the world, the indigenous people, throughout all the countries, from Australia to the Polynesians, from the West Indies, all over the world, you have these people, these warriors who've been fighting the great fight, right? Now that we have honor restored to the name Yamassee, the only thing I'm saying to you all is, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If there is nothing for you to do but fill out some paperwork and send your money in, and you become an Indian, you got to question that. I know it takes work for us to do the things we do. It takes time for us to put together green corn ceremonies and something that we do every year. That's something I've been growing up doing my whole life with my grandmothers. But it still takes work because it's correlating times and putting together dinners and what we're going to do when it comes to this, and what time do we have allotted for certain to do certain cultural practices and things. It's not just something we just do, but just for somebody to say, here you go. Now you're Yamassee. That's wrong, and it's not just about Yamassee. Any people that you may identify with, it's wrong. Now, and I know I'm talking a lot, but let me say this: there is cultures and native people who don't want you to exist. They don't want you to exist because you don't look the way they look. You don't your skin type, your phenotype isn't theirs, and they have to explain that, right? But there was two distinct, different type of natives. One that of being Mongoloid that came over here, the Asiatics, right? And this ain't something I made up. This is not something I made up. The only problem that happens when I say this type of stuff is those who lack the education, who have not done the research, who still just use topical information that the Europeans give, get offended by the information because they haven't deep dived yet. But there's two distinct type of Native Americans. It's a reason why in the Southeast you don't see all these typical Mongoloid looking tribes like you do in the West, right? The ones that are here, they look more mulatto in nature, from like the Lumbee and the Catawba and all these different people. Then the rest of them just look white. That's typically what you get. But the Southeast tribes were dark pigmented people. And people get mad when you say this. But this ain't about what I'm saying. I don't know if y'all can see over my shoulder. It's this, it's that. It's that history right there behind us. That dark-skinned woman right there, that's a Seminole. She's not identified as a black Seminole. She's identified as a Seminole, right? Ruby Tiger. Look her up, right? So it's this historical narrative and context, and that's my job. My job is to bring forth the information so that our people who may think they are Yamassee, or they may think they are Miccosukee, or even to call themselves freedmen or Maroons, all feel comfortable with who they are because they have the historical narrative and understanding and what happened and how we were how we were misidentified and written out of history, and how we went from being identified as the first people to now being called African Americans. That's my only job. My only job is to show you why I exist and why I look this way. But I also like to say and use common sense, and y'all know I'm good at that, which is this shirt is black. Stop accepting this term black. Use it loosely. Use it very loosely. Man, I'm a red man. This is red. This is copper. This is what they call red men. Not this white washed out race of people that's claiming to be Native Americans and get mad when you claim you are, because even with the Apache and the Lakota and the Sioux people, I can show you documentation where these people were dark-skinned people. They look nothing like their ancestors today. Nothing like them. Let me finish, because I'll go on.
I know you can give people what they want. They want to hear you speak. So, Pop, before I pull up some stuff, I'm gonna let you go ahead. Before I pull up some stuff, let you get your thoughts in real quick. What you got going on?
Right, and what they're doing is when they say that they are actually a chief or a basically, and then when they're not, that's actually a crime. If most people don't know, because to personate or to impersonate a tribal leader, which is a dignitary, right, of that nation, that can also be brought up as a federal crime, and most people don't know that. They don't know that. And then you have people going and filing paperwork into their court system. But if you was of a tribal nation, why an individual have to go and put in paperwork for themselves when they are part of a tribal nation? The tribal court do that, because that's why is nation to nation diplomacy. So they're not even doing that correctly. So now you got people out there doing paperwork, and then they wind up being put in jail. And they was like, well, how I get arrested? Well, they wind up calling the people who they looking for, where they got the call from, but they can't get in touch with the people because the people got their money and ran.
And that has been proven time and time again. But again, the hardest part for me in this situation is I am not a snitch. I don't like be snitching on people and all. I don't do that. But what I will do is say, that's not us. Well, you know where they at? No. Do you know how? No. I don't. I don't know. Because it's not my job. That's not my battle. My battle is to educate our people. My battle is to educate my babies who will be taking over this position soon. My battle is to educate the people. And the craziest thing that I've met, here's the craziest stuff ever, everybody who's watching this later on, how uneducated we are as a people of color. When I go to events, I'm mostly invited by the Europeans, right? The same descendants of the colonizers. Why? Because they're astute. They know what the Yamassee looked like. They know what the people look like. You know why? I've come to find out that when they purchase these lands here in South Carolina and Georgia and these different places, they do the research because they want to see what they may come up against if they buy land in large quantities that may be Native American land or burial ground. See, they think about all these different things. They think about all these dynamics before they purchase land. So they educate themselves. They become self-proclaimed historians. So they sit here, and as I've done events in Florida at St. Augustine, I've watched people walk up, and before I even speak, that's what an Indian looked like. And these are white men telling their white children this. That's what they look like. Can you imagine walking in the woods and running up against him? I'm listening to the dialogues. Right? I'm listening to the dialogues. But when it comes to our people and to come to the quote Native American people, it's they're pretending, them niggas, they pretending they're African Americans and blah blah, pretending and neat. And again, it's like, so you just overlooked everything that I dropped factual because you want to. And then I have to question, well, who are you really now behind? Because you got all these keyboard warriors now. They bad as hell when they come behind keyboard. But again, I got an address, I got a reservation. You can Google us. Federal government know where we at. They come visit us. If you got a real problem, come see us. Let's sit down, let's dialogue, let's chat. If you don't want to chat, shut up. If you're not going to be astute, shut up. Let somebody with a real intellectual mind handle the mic. Let the adults talk. That's what I like to say. Okay, you want to be a child about this, let the adults talk, right? But the thing that I'm here to do with proof who we are, who the Yamassee were. So, people who are not following us, some of your audience who don't know who we are, and they go to our Instagram page. We have very intriguing and dialogue in our Instagram page, right? We get deep diving things. You go to my Instagram page, I provide links where I'm sitting here showing you, for example, let's talk about the word creeks. Because I think instead of this being a who we are and who we're not, we need to be delving into the documentation that talks about things that is unknown to our people because it's not being taught in school programs. It's not being taught in history. Our job now is taking the resources of digital technology and then bringing it forth, right? And so a large part of that now is about the digitalization of the information. So when we start talking about the 5 civilized tribes, which is a government document, when you start getting into the 5 civilized tribes, which the government is holding in archive, and they tell you that there was not a Creek that was not identified as a Negro. What do you do with that? How can I pretend? I keep telling you, how am I pretending to be a Negro? How do you pretend to be a Negro? I'm still fascinated by people saying that. The Yamassee identified as Negro, the Creeks identified as Negro. How do you pretend to be something that you look like? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. I mean, come on. How stupid can you get to sit here and say they're pretendings? How? We're one of the only tribes that even are described as Negroes. How am I going to pretend to be a Negro? Right? And so it becomes now our job to educate people. Our job is, I look down at the children, and I call them children who are less educated than my own children. When my children can have a conversation in historical context about who our people is, and there's 40, 50, 60-year-old men and women who can't, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you because you're taking on the same racial biasness that the same people you claim oppressed you are doing. You're taking on their way of thinking. You're doing exactly what you're arguing about, my Native American brothers and sisters. You're creating disunity. And I love to remind people, before COVID, George Floyd had set the world on fire where people got tired of people of color being hurt. COVID just mysteriously came about and created separation. But the world was tired. Remember that, y'all? The world got tired of discrimination, people dying wrongfully. Now we back on the same shit. It just took one little scare for all your racial shit to come back in play now. And we're so disconcerting, and now we're just so content with our lives that we're back on the same shit. I shouldn't have to defend the Yamassee people. I shouldn't have to defend the Muskogee people. I shouldn't have to defend who we are. If you're true astute, matter of fact, I seen somebody say in a recent interview I did, real natives don't focus on this stuff that you're focused on. They're happy doing powwow celebration. Yeah, because they got their shit. Those you identifying as Native American, they got their shit. They are happy. They're celebrating. We won. My ancestors won. We got it. We getting federal food stamps. We're good, right? I'm having to sit here and defend my identity all the damn time, even though history has proven, history has given it. It's right there. History said this is it. This is them. Oh, we got the cartoons that was drawn by the first colonizers who came to America. Here they go. This is what they look like. This is what we saw. Look at this dark-skinned brother. Look at this bronze copper tone brother. I didn't draw this shit in the 1500s. What you mad at me for?
Right.
I didn't take this picture of this woman. What you mad at me for? Why am I the issue?
So, it's crazy because you're not the issue. That's why you're here tonight on this platform. And that you've been doing big things in Carolina, man. I mean, you said you got the Yamassee in the school books. And I heard you did that. Congratulations. But by the way, I never got a chance to really tell you congratulations like I'm doing now formally.
Well, thank you.
But you've been doing your thing. You got certain things recognized in the school systems, in the state of Carolina. And I want to get back to what I brought up earlier, dealing with the key to the city part. The key to the city part. The key to the city, when I came and I saw you guys, and I obviously as a witness, this connection has made. Can you go into the Sakahatu War? Can we pull it up for people too? Because they might not know about this war in 1865. So I'm gonna pull up a source, but I also would like for you to speak on it. You know what I mean? And just tell the people kind of about the historical understanding. Because we're getting closer. This is like a more modern. It's not modern. We're in 2021, 2023, but what I mean is 21st century wise, we're now. But at that time, 1865 is more modern than obviously what we talked about earlier, dealing with the Yamassee War, with the Spanish. You know what I mean? You can say even the French.
And that all that was also going around at the time of the American Civil War in the 1860s.
Right. So
that's funny
because most people don't know about that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see all these towns. Everybody in the chat, live, listening, watching, and tapping in. You see all these different towns or areas that they've talked about. When I call, in Allensdale was one of the places as well. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody that got family from these areas, check it out. Go do your research, right? You never know, right?
Tell Kofi to scroll down even more. Let them read more if there's more to there, so they can see it for themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you. But go ahead, finish, Matt. I'm listening.
All right. So yeah, but boom. So it says, General Sherman marched through South Carolina, began in late December 1864. By March 9th, 1865, his troops had passed out of the state into North Carolina, leaving behind a path of total destruction, 100 miles wide and extending the entire length of the state. The campaign began in late November 1864, even before the surrender of Savannah, but due to the strong resistance of General Wheeler's cavalry, Sherman's first troops did not cross the river into South Carolina until January 15, 1865. Now, it says actual invasion of South Carolina has begun. The well-known site of columns of black smoke meets the great glaze. Again, this time houses are burning, and South Carolina has commenced to pay an installment long overdue on her debt to justice and humanity. With the help of God, we will have principle and interest before we leave her borders. So, I mean, in the context of y'all, this, because I ain't gonna read all this word for word, but I want y'all all this. I'm leaving it on the screen for y'all to get this real quick if anybody wants to read that. So. What more? Scroll down after. Scroll down. There's more to this too.
Let's go with it from here, because see, in that same time frame, I tell you, there's always duality to any story that's being told. And see, this is the European storyline being told. And what are they really saying? That they're saying they're marching into these towns and villages. So there was still, and people don't understand, because remember, the Yamassee was extinct according to them after the War of 1715. The fallacy of that is proven within this context and this document that you're reading, right? Because at the same time, when you look at the Industrial Commission for Beaufort, because all of these areas, not all those towns they have listed, but Allendale, Hampton, Barnwell, all these different places which encompassed and was the Yamassee Reservation, and those places they're talking about, all was still Yamassee lived. That's the best way to say it. This is where our people communed. This is where our people lived at. This is where they were living. And when you look at the Industrial Commission and you read that documentation, and a lot of that we have on our website, YamasseeNation.org. When you look at the Industrial Commission and they ask about the place of Beaufort, they tell you that this was the blackest place in South Carolina. This is inclusive to Salkehatchie. This is inclusive to all these towns that you're naming here. And they say it was well-to-do and quiet and prosperous. This is, again, the quote, Black Wall Street, for lack of a better word, in Beaufort. We were being successful as Yamassee people. We were still holding our own. We was living without any encumbrances. No one was bothering us. But we were economically living
economically sound.
Right. And so this is the disruption of that. This is what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a disruption of that prosperity and peace that we was having. See, this is the unknown history, again, that we tend to forget because, again, our storyline only goes from, you niggas came from Africa, we put you into slavery, we had wars to fight for y'all freedom. No, this denotes all that. When you read this in when you really use your real eyes and start reading through the propaganda, you'll say, oh, something else was going on here. Something else had to be going on here. Because why would they do that? This is 1865. You understand? So again, this is what I tell people. Stop using just these eyes. Start using the third eye that's in here, right? And start piecing together the information. Start piecing. This is me and your job, Mac. This is me and your job, Kofi. This is me and your job, Pa. We who are true historians, right? We love history because once we got opened up to the unknown, because see, truly and honestly, what do we love about being historians? Knowing what others don't, and then sharing that, right? I'm not gonna lie.
You get a kick out of it. You get a kick out of it, right?
You do get a kick out of it because you get a chance to change the narrative and the ideology and the mindset of people who were thinking that way. And let me say this, because oftentimes I think we get so caught up and we have been oppressed as a people so bad that freedom we're looking for, we don't automatically apply it to our Hispanic brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers and sisters, and even a lot of European brothers and sisters, right? We tend to forget that this story that we're sharing and we're telling is applicable to my Puerto Rican sisters and brothers, my Taino brothers and sisters, the Arawak brothers and sisters, the Cimarroons, right? The Maroon community. Our story is all intertwined. See, that's the thing that we really have to understand. It's all intertwined. And once we start doing this, coming back together, that's what this means. And we start sharing that story, we will be the most powerful nation in the world. Because it won't be based on color, it'll be based on truth. It won't be based on hypocrisy, it'll be based on facts. It won't be based on biasness, it'll be based on cohesiveness. Because cohesiveness, the acceptance, is what we've been looking for. There is no greater acceptance in historical knowledge or anything that we can do than being around a group of like-minded people.
That's
oneness. The power. That's that oneness. I don't give a damn what someone else thinks who thinks opposite to unity. That's what I had to come to learn as a chief as I've grown. I don't care about those who want to separate. I care about those who want to unify.
Come together, right.
Because I know what we can do when we unify. I watched it. I read history. But you also have to be smart to know how you unify, and the message you proclaim out your mouth will also determine how successful you are. So when you start talking about the history book and things of that nature, I didn't do that. That's the ancestors. I was just the face of the information. And even within that, I try to tell people, that is fascinating to me that people ain't even catching on to this. I cannot put myself in a history book, everybody. I cannot contact the education system for South Carolina and say, you're going to put me in the history book and I'm going to follow these documentation. If you're not, we're going to sue you. I didn't do none of that. They did their research. They found out that they put me in there. And what it did was it caused a disruption amongst the other native tribes here in South Carolina that were pissed off about it. Because they're like, if you got him in here, why don't you got me in here? And blah, 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 blah. Well, they're like, because the Cherokee and the Yamassee were the most monumental portions of South Carolina history, not your group of people. So you know what they did after that? They got a new edition that is waiting to be released, and I'm not in it no more. But what I did do is make history thanks to our ancestors. And that's the thing that's so fascinating to me, because people are overlooking that whole asset of what we've done. They still want to make this about me and us pretending to be something I can't. But the thing that astounds me even more is we, as students of history, sit back and we watch our predecessors, like the Martin Luther Kings, Malcolm X's, Marcus Garvey, and all these people who had to be character assassinated and or physically assassinated before they made history. And here we have living history, and we don't respect it or honor that. We're not looking at what it takes to do this. Everyone's mad at Chief Sekhu about what? Because I made history books? We supposed to, that's supposed to be the template. That's the gold standard right there. Oh, he did that? Shit. I'm gonna do 10 times. That brother just opened the door. Now I know it's possible. Okay, so something's changing. The dynamics of the world is changing. They're actually putting this brother in history books. So what can I achieve, or what can my children achieve? Ain't no one looking at it like that. And I didn't have to die to do that. I keep saying this. I didn't have to die to be in a history book.
Right.
I didn't have to die to do that.
Thing. That's why I say I gotta give you your kudos for that, man. Like I said, when I heard that you were in the history, you know, and you were able now in the Carolina to establish, you know what I'm saying, the Yamassee historically, but your face being now the predominant face of what now a Yamassee person looks like. And that did change the dynamic of now, okay, wait a second. We got to acknowledge that man's face right there, that dark-skinned brother we see, that's the face of Yamassee. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Your mama, that's the face of Yamassee. You know what I mean? Like, it changed this now, the ideal of what, you know what I mean, people's mindset of what a Native American or Aboriginal look like, First Nation people. Out the southeast of, I like to say, Appalachia. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Territories. You know what I mean?
But you know what?
Southeastern part.
Too? And this the thing, right? With all this being said and done, just like when Chief Sekhu, my little cousin Big Chief, said, ignorance is just not only dealing with color, because if that would have been the case, you have some so-called pale face in them that are ignorant to the information too. Even some of the professors in them, they had to come and get the correct information, you know. And we were sitting on the res, and we saw this lady coming walking on the res, and we were like, man, who she is? So you know me, I said, excuse me. I said, good morning. I said, you looking for someone? She said, oh yes, I was invited by Chief Littlebuck. I said, oh. She said, where is he? I said, well, he's in the home right now. You know, you can come back here by us. So we walk her back there, and we sitting down and we talking to her. And she was like, oh yes, I'm from the university that's down there in St. Augustine, and I'm writing a book.
University of
Florida. I would like to do
University of Florida.
University of Florida. I would like to do the University of Florida. Yeah, and I would like to do the first conference of the Yamassee, you know. But she was like, she was like so amazed. She was like, oh my God, the Yamassee still exists. I can't believe it. She was like, oh my God. She was like smitten. Like, yeah. She said, y'all still doing your traditions? Y'all still doing your culture? You still speak your language? She said, we've been speaking about y'all for the longest. And so she said, I need y'all to verify things before I even print this book. And sure enough, she got with Chief Sekhu, and everything was said and done, and everything was fruition after that. And everybody was like, wow. You know,
and people don't get that you know, these are people who have their credentials on the line. This woman makes a living being a professor and teaching. And what he's talking about is Denise Bossy, Chester the Pratter, Stephen Hahn, all these different people who are known writers. They're known archaeologists. They are known to be the best at their profession. They are, you know, going back in and changing history because they understand that the rudimentary way of thinking that their previous predecessors were doing in the ways they had wasn't up to par and up to standards, because they lacked a lot of be able to make definitive statements and or assumptions. And so they had to come back in and reanalyze this, because all fingers kept pointing to the fallacy that we were extinct. And I like to tell people, these people deep dive. They go in your genealogy, they go in and research, they have the money, they get the grant money to go in and do this. They have the grant money to hire this person to do this and this person to do this and this. So when it's all said and done, if you're not deep diving and you're saying you're better than these professionals when it comes to Yamassee, so be it. But it still goes into the success that we've had because of who we are. Sitting down now, being able to have conversations with Senator Tim Scott, with Governor Nikki Haley, or at this time different people, because these people saying we can't continue to do this to the most historical tribe there is. And that's the only thing I'm saying to them. Like, now that y'all know who we are you going to continue to do the same thing? Let's change the dialogue. Let's change the momentum of this, because all we really want, Mac, and is freedom. We're just looking to be free to practice our culture, right? Be able to make decisions amongst ourselves, be able to be self-governing. These are all the criteria to be autonomy. These are all the criteria for federal recognition. You got to prove that you're self-governing, right? So that's been my argument with them. Okay, we ain't a pseudo tribe. We ain't a pseudo made-up group. We ain't add nothing to our name. We are the Yamassee Indian tribe. We're the Yamassee Nation. Now that that's been established, you're going to still try to take our rights to be, do, practice. And the federal government came down and told them, nah, y'all can't do that. No, you can't do it. The greatest honor I ever had, Matt, let me tell you something, man. As much as the other little groups and pseudo groups that was changing their names and proclaiming to be Yamassee did, the best thing they ever did was contact the federal government on me. Contact the federal government on me. Try to sue me and all this other shit. That's the best thing they ever did. Because when the government came down here and I sat down with Mr. Walter Atkinson from the Department of Justice, and this man had a portfolio, my hands can't even show how deep the portfolio was. And he had the CIA came to our reservation, bro. They left CIA cards all over the damn reservation. We trying to figure out who did it and how they had time. But when the Department of Justice, the highest form of justice, come down here to represent you and sit with you and talk to you, and this man look you in your eye and say, it is an honor to be here with you, Chief. We know everything about you. I was sent down here from Washington, and there is people here in South Carolina and the higher ups, and people and the higher ups in Washington, and people's in Florida, and all these different people that want to know how this meeting is going to go. And I had to get permission from my superior. And at this time, he's a regional supervisor, and he had to get permission from his superior. Now, this happened at the same time Trayvon Martin went down when the little young brother got killed. Okay, and he was leaving us to go down there to rectify and solidify that solution, because remember all the rioting and stuff was going on. But we had higher standards when it came to that. We was at the top of the list for Washington, D.C. for this man to come down and talk to. And the man said, I know everything about y'all. Your heart drops in your goddamn chest when the man he pulls out a damn portfolio in a damn briefcase, stick it on the table, he pull out all these damn fact forms. From your mama's fucking DD-214 to your high school records to everything about you. Come on, bro. And he says, how can we help you? How can we help
everybody?
You understand what I'm saying? These brothers that's talking about me, these people that's doing all this crazy shit, I don't be caring about that mess they talking, because I've been vetted. I don't care if you don't like me. We've been vetted, bro.
Right.
We've been vetted. So much so we move freely here in Allendale. Great relationship with law enforcement. Great relationship with the county. Great relationship with the town. Great relationship with the state. I can call people up. Hey, I can call somebody in the feds. Hey, I can call somebody in Homeland Security. Hey, we got a problem. How can we help you, Chief? How can we help you? Now let's get
Some
past
people
all
don't take it serious. I don't think people
don't
understand it because they don't. Again, they can't understand that you have a family, and we have the key to the city. Because I don't remember how many acres. How many acres of land is the reservation, if you don't mind?
We'll keep that. We're gonna keep that. We're gonna keep that.
Okay. All right. See, I forget. You know what I'm saying? So I just. It's been a minute, so I forgot how big the place is.
Yeah, I'm glad you forgot.
Okay, good. But I mean, I walked it. It is kind of. I ain't walked the whole thing, y'all. I ain't gonna cap. But I seen enough of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you got that bingo set up.
Look,
yet.
That's only a part of it.
Exactly. I know. Hey, I think he was only showing me the city side. You know, I was a city boy. No, but for real talk though, I got one more thing I want to show real quick too. And also, this is a book I've had, Sekhu. Do you remember this?
Yes, Carolina Genesis. Yes, I do.
Do you remember when I called you on the phone and said, bro, I had just left from the Carolinas, and I had to go get this book. You know what I'm saying? And then I started reading it, and I was like, so I'm gonna read something out of it because I thought about you when I said you were coming on the show. And I'm like, this book literally is like around the time when I met you, and I got this book. I have this book since that time. And you know, I'm from y'all got the key to the city. And you know what? I ain't gonna front too. It's another thing. I think someone took it. I've been looking for it. I remember I got the language book when I came up there. You had gave me one of the for the Hittichi language, right? So all that. You got it. Okay, never mind. Got it. Green got me. See, Kofi got me. All right, so there we go.
Go Kofi, go Kofi. That's what I'm talking
Kofi,
about.
Yeah, he caught that one for me. Yeah. So I got a link though. I want to show everybody this too for everybody out there that don't know about the Yamassee. So I want to show this too, and I want y'all to tap in on it because I want y'all opinions, obviously, because you guys are, you know what I mean. Y'all the representative of these things. You know, I have lineage. But I'm talking to y'all because you guys are obviously active. You speak the language. I do not speak the Titchy language like that, as you know. Even though we got the book, you know what I'm saying? But I don't speak it like how you can. So that's why you're representing this in manner to do this. So, got agree.
But we're working on that. I want you to know that we're working on that as well. We are working on a language immersion program now, and hopefully we get some money and funds for that, and then it's going to be all inclusive because you need to be speaking it. Your children need to be speaking it. We need to start speaking our tongue. You know what I mean? That's the most powerful thing there is, to be able to speak your tongue and be able to be a part of that culture. You know, because that's how our ancestors were able to communicate. But go ahead, brother.
Right, and Hittichi is I don't want to skip it. I don't want to skip. I'm gonna do this first. I'm gonna show this first, and we're gonna get into that.
Okay.
So this again, this is popular. Everybody knows about the Yamassee War of 1715 to 1717. You see, it shows the whole map. I want to show a map. So everybody can kind of see this right here. You can zoom in so everybody can get a little, you know.
And that's what I was about to say about that map. That map came all the way to the Louisiana, the Carolinas.
Yeah, you see that, right? West and East Florida. So you see how big the Carolinas is on this map. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, God agree and Kofi, go back to a joint. We showing us in the glaze and stuff down here.
And it even extended into the Caribbean islands. Most people don't know the Carolinas went into the Caribbean islands as well in the 1700s.
Right. See, and they're using these terms, Carolinas and stuff like that, right? But on our side, it's Appalachia. You know what I mean? It's Appalachia.
Right.
Appalachia. I like to be Appalachia. See, I'm not that dusty now, Sekhu. Don't sleep on me now. You know what I mean? Don't sleep on me now. You feel me? I don't be talking. I'm a city boy. I don't be talking to every day.
Appalachia.
You know what I'm saying? Appalachia. So in the manner of this area, though, for everybody out there, you feel me? That's got this joint. You know, they can see it, so they can get educated. They can go look at get a map that just something that you can think about in your mind how big the Carolinas is on this map. So we're gonna slide down though, because I want people to see where the link is. It's 24. Hold up, let me read it for people just in case, Kofi, because it's small. You have to zoom into certain parts. We ain't gonna read this whole thing. It's the part that you want, right? Yeah, but I want you to go up real quick and let them see the top. What issue is this? Dealing with this history. I want people to see where the source comes from.
Can you also provide a link probably in the bio of this? Go to it directly. I love people to be able to read things for themselves as well.
Yeah, matter of fact, we can put this in the chat. Chat. Kofi, when you get a chance, you can put that in the chat for the people. This is the 24th annual South Carolina Archaeology, and this is from 2015, right? They update this. People might not know that, right? You see, it's 24th. So, I mean, they've been doing it how long now? You know what I mean? It's the 24th annual. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I wanted to use this because you mentioned earlier, the archaeology. You know what I mean? People really that's doing historical, going into the grounds, doing the research in that level, showing regions and everything like that. So they can't say, "Oh, this is just some blog page or something." You know what I mean? Right. I don't want nobody to think that we don't do this on the Thomas Party, y'all. Y'all should know it's better than that by now. But at the same time, the road to war is brought up in this link. The Indian slave trade that you mentioned earlier is brought up, dealing with the Yamassee storyline. So people that, when we put this link in the chat, you definitely can read. And this is, I think, has a great layout of a lot of information. It's something that I'm looking for in particular in it that I'm gonna zoom in. Ooh. Come back up. Go back up right there. Go back up right there. Keep going. Right there. The aftermath. Can you make that bigger? I want to read certain parts of this source. I'm not gonna read every part, but just certain parts of it. You go zoom in because it's small. All right, the aftermath. This is while major military operations ended within the 2 months of the war, Yamassee and the Muskegon raids on trading caravans and frontier skirmishes with South Carolina militia continue sporadically for the next 2 years. As the confusion of the first violent weeks of the war settled down, it was obvious that the social, political, and economic landscape of the Southeast had changed dramatically, and that the Indian groups and colonial officials would have to renegotiate their diplomatic and trading relationships. For South Carolinians, in a matter of weeks, the landscape had transformed from one of security surrounded by protective buffer zone of Indian allies to one utter vulnerability. As for the instigators of the war, only weeks after the first successful raids, the Yamassee had lost a quarter of their number to death or slavery, and they were forced to move their town south to seek protection from the Spanish. This is while not creating perilous, situation as that experienced by the Yamassee. The chaos of war caused a temporary but crucial breach in the fundamental diplomatic and trading relationships among the southeastern groups and South Carolina. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It says in doing so, the war created a moment when everything was on the table and negotiable. Consequently, 25-year period following the war, 1715 to 1740, it says including significant changes in diplomacy and trade that reflected the attempts of all groups to adjust to this new post-war landscape. So, as you know, I know we was talking earlier, we got to 1715, and that's why this one sets out, because it actually, we went to 1865, right? When I asked you about the Sakahachi War, but now this is the aftermath leading from 1715 into 1865, and it's actually too showing in this document that the Yamassee are obviously not wiped out, because it's telling you that after the aftermath, that there's a result of negotiations taking place with these still group of people who are living in this area. Am I wrong about that, or am I tripping?
You're 100% correct. And see, if you go even a little deeper, see, and this is again why I love history. When you go even deeper, when you look at so what you're doing is you're trying to set a storyline and a plot line that show people the fallacy behind the Yamassee extinction was just that, because here we have documentation that's saying after the War of 1715 there was still continuing negotiation and diplomacy happening between the Yamassee people and the Europeans. That's what you're saying. And then you're saying from that point to 1865 there was still obviously more Yamassee, because there was still a war that you're talking about was the wars they start renaming as, quote, Seminole Wars, or the First Seminole War, Second Seminole War. Now, the turning point behind that and how pivotal and how powerful that is when you start looking at this documentation, again, proof positive, it goes against several fallacies. That the Yamassee was only 2,000 in numbers originally. I think one person told a lie saying that. And then the other fallacy is the name changing now, because you stop seeing the word Yamassee and you start seeing the word Seminole and Creek. Okay. And this is so important because when you read certain books, and I like to reference these books because these books are telling the truth, like the Invention of the Creek Nation and things of that nature, it tells you that there was not a Creek that was not considered Yamassee. Even when it comes to the Seminoles, if you go into the Seminole Charter, when you go into the Seminole Nation, and I think this is just more recently, I share. If you're watching this, text me the link that I'm talking about. I'm trying to remember, and that's off the top of my head because I got so much information in my head. But when you even look at the word Seminole, right? What we've come to understand and find in corporate charters and documents that we found in the Seminoles, that it is openly said that the Seminoles, Yamassee, are existing, and they literally say Seminoles. They put in brackets Yamassee, not Seminoles, Appalachia, Seminole, Yuchi, Seminole. No, they specifically say Yamassee, right? So what that does is that changes the dynamics of it, because again, when you go to the root word, Seminole, right? Runaways, because let's take out wild ones, runaways. And when you look at the word Seminole, which became later known as Cimarron, which then got shortened to just Maroons. Anybody catching on?
You know, I gotta tell you something too now. You know, I'm gonna say this now. You know, they got a problem with this one thing, this runaway part, because as a Maroon, I take that shit offensive. You know what I'm saying?
You should
run nowhere.
You should.
And
You should.
And so when they say, Yacht Seminole, you know this. Yacht Seminole means free people. That's what we called it. They said, see, that's them
runaways
saying, oh, we runaways.
Runaways.
With this. See, you know, I could go.
That is offensive. You know, you could and you can as well. But like, remember, I told you at the very beginning of this conversation. Remember what I told you? Remember what I told you at the very beginning of this conversation? We use certain words for the purpose of. This is the purpose of now, right? This is the purpose of. Because obviously, we're not running away if we're constantly damn fighting.
That part.
Right. Right. And it's another thing too.
What this would apply to? Hold on, Paul, and I want you to keep your train of thought, please. What this applied to was the slaves they were losing on the plantation. They called slaves who ran from the plantation runaways.
Right. That's the loose.
Now look how they use it synonymously to identify the Indian people as a whole. See, people ain't thinking about this. The quote now identified Seminoles ain't thinking about this, because they will say, "Oh, we don't have no blacks in us. We kept them as slaves." And why are you using a black terminology to identify? Why are you using something that was used to identify slaves that were being taken away from slave plantations as people that were kidnapped to identify? See, this is what I'm saying. We can deep dive in this and we can hurt feelings. We can deep dive in this and we can hurt feelings. But what we do is we take the factual information that they go by and present our case, right? But if we deep dive into this, yes, it's offensive to be called a damn runaway when we know my ancestors were fighting his ass off. Sam Jones was fighting Yvmvse.
Right, and as a Jones, you can't really even, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
come on.
I don't even cross us right down here in Florida to call us that, bro. It's not really something.
That's why we didn't go by that. We went by Mikosuke. We went by Mikosuke, bro. We went by Mikosuke. That was our core name. Mikosuke. Yeah, Mikosuke. We were Mikosuke, the Hichiti. That's what the word Hichiti is. Upstream, we were Mikosuke. See?
Right.
So this derogatory word Seminole. Go ahead.
And then another thing is too, right? We went to the Yamassee War, to the Seminole War. But see, we forgot the other war that they call it by. So you had the Yamassee War in 1715, and then you had the Gullah War in the later part of the 1700s, like around 1730, 1740. And then after that, you wind up having the Seminole War.
Back up. Because see, what we're not going to do, since Matt wants to take offense to being called runaway, what we ain't going to do is pretend like there was a group of people called Gullah in the 1700s. It didn't exist. There was no Gullah. You can't have a damn Gullah war if the word just being coined in the early 1900s. 1985, 1980. You can't have a war that didn't existed if there was that word wasn't even used or coined. See, so the fallacies again. So who was the people you're talking about that was fighting? See, that's a whole nother argument I have, because as long as we keep pretending and we keep sitting here pooping on history and we keep allowing them to change history, like we allowed them to change our names, we won't never get the story right. See, that's a whole other part of the conversation I had earlier. It was like, we got to stop this whole Gullah thing. I get people make money off this. I get it's the whole romanticizing of these people who endured so much, but tell the truth. This is why so much of the Sea Islands is being taken right now. I just had this conversation. The reason why they're able to take the land and the property is because y'all keep identifying as African Americans. You keep identifying as a foreigner on the land. Instead of identifying as the indigenous people that you were, you keep identifying as Gullah, which gives them the right to the land, because as long as you keep saying you're a fucking foreigner, I can take this land freely. It ain't yours. Oh, we love the corridor. We love the history and the heritage. We love the offset of the language and blah, 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 blah. But the reason why it's a perpetuation of this and why they keep throwing so much money at this and why it's so dangerous until we stop these people from saying, hey, stop this thing that y'all are doing, because y'all know that word didn't exist. Stop this thing that you're doing, because the same people you're trying to help, you're hurting. As long as you keep taking it away from the native people who was here, the Yamassee. These were Negroes, remember? They look like Negroes, so y'all might just be Yamassee. But as long as they keep that conversation going, they're going to keep dealing with like the issue that we just dealt with, which was a developer coming in, taking the land, right?
Yeah.
Digging up bones of our ancestors and everything else, because these are just old Africans. Y'all weren't from here. This ain't your motherland. You keep saying you Gullah. This ain't your motherland. You don't got a dog in this fight. The only one we can fight with is the Indians. See, people ain't catching on to that. They ain't catching on to that.
Let me tell you something. It kind of get crazy. That's why, when you said, I mean, I get it. Like you said on the timeline part, I know you said that from for people that just be knowing the term they be using, right? But you say cool. You're right about that. You know what I mean? In the 1700s, from historical, like when we go back and look at the historical things and the treaties and wars and what we call chartered situations, right? This is right. I mean, if I'm tripping. No, you ain't tripping.
I'm not talking about modern day. I'm not talking about modern day romanticized conversations and renaming of a situation, the Gullah War. No, I'm not talking about that modern stuff. I'm saying go back to these archived documents and look up a Gullah War.
Right. You're not
look up where it was called. Okay.
You're not going to find those documents of those people warring being named that term in the 1700s. You're not going to find that. If you're looking at what the king of the colony, the 13 colonies, them black swarthy people who were mixing in with these people, what we call Yamassee and other groups that were in the southeast region. So there is no Gullah term until later on. It's a Geechee situation. You know what I mean? And I ain't trying to be offensive, but it is what, but this now.
And that term is not even over in Africa. The people was calling it.
There's only one reference of Gullah that's ever been used, and it's called from the Grebo tribe of Africa. There's a tribe of the Grebo that the word Gullah comes from, not Angola. There was none. The word Geechee is Hichiti. It's a Hichiti word. Geechee is a Hichiti word. Ukichi. I keep telling everybody this. I've been saying this for years now. But what we do is because people are identifying and they look at the Gullah having a culture, they feel like you're attacking who they are. And I'm saying, no, just do the research. There's
just do the research and investigation.
And investigation. Because now there is a step back from leadership and people identifying as Gullah who's saying, oh, well, the Gullah people is a mixture of the African people and indigenous people. Oh, before that wasn't being said. Before that wasn't being said. That wasn't being said. Now it's being said, oh, we are a mixture of, okay, then stop the BS. Stop the BS.
Right.
Because now you can't say African. Now you got to change the mindset of the whole people that you had convinced were all from Africa and had accepted I'm from Africa. Now they have to restudy and say, damn, well, that do make sense because most of the Gullah people I met have an Indian grandmother.
Right.
I'm sitting there amazed, like, okay, y'all, and you still claiming to be from Africa? That don't make sense to me. Where's the disconnect in your mind? Where's the disconnect in your mind? That's like my Taino sisters and brothers who are realizing, Puerto Rico is an island. I can't fathom there was a bunch of people that spawned up the same time that humanity was being spawned up out the waters that just lived on the fucking island of Puerto Rico that don't have a connection to the islands. You know what I'm saying? That don't make sense to me. You had to come from somewhere. And so our Taino brothers and sisters now are waking up like, okay. Our West Indies brothers and sisters are now waking up. And I'm not saying, again, everybody in the West Indies are Yamassee or Native American from America. No, I'm not saying that. Please do not twist my words. What I'm saying is they shipped a bunch of our people out. I'm not saying everybody who is or identified as Gullah is Yamassee. I'm not saying that. Please don't take that way. I'm not saying everybody who's considered a freedman is Yamassee. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a large, vast majority of you all, have Native American or indigenous blood from Americas. And if we just take away the Native American and the indigenous and just say from Turtle Island, that was shipped over here. And again, go to our Instagram page and look. I have the documents, I have the proof where they said they were shipping 30 to 51,000 Native people out a year. 30 to 51,000 from the Southeast a year, bro. They said they were shipping out more Native Americans than they was bringing in Africans.
Right.
Facts.
We got that. We got that on them. I feel you. I'm glad you documented, because on our side, we saying the same thing. You know what I mean? And in Carolina Genesis, that's why Carolina has a great storyline to it. It really has its own genesis to it when we think about all the history that needs to be taught about. You know what I mean? This is why this book is why I'm sitting on this picture right here for so long, and I'm wanting people to focus. It's an interesting word that's right there. You see that word where it says Rick O. Hawkins, Ruka Hawkins, or Rico Hakakan, I would say. I mean, however you might pronounce it, right? The thing about this word, which is underneath the Appalachian in this scoot over a little bit so they can see the whole thing where it says Appalachian Mountains, right? So boom, it says Appalachian Mountains, and then right underneath it, it says it has that word, the Rico Hakakan, right? This is another term they're using right here, indigenously, right? This book, Carolina Genesis, has this word, Amorgarkhan, dealing with the people who are correlated to this Rico Hakan.
Now you finna deep dive. You ready to deep dive? I hear. Okay.
I ain't got. I know. I just want to drop a little something, just a little bit.
We're gonna have to be part two. We're gonna have to be part two. This night. Be careful now. Be careful.
We're doing part two. You know how I do things, though. I can't now. Hey, I'm giving them the book, so anybody that wants to, and I'm showing them an annual, archaeology report. They do on this area. It's showing the landmass. It's showing that.
Yes.
So Amorgar Kakan, right?
Yes, Amorgar Kakan. Amakarisi. That's just coincidentally. Amakarisi. All those were original names that identified the Yamassee. Facts. That's documented.
Okay.
We were considered the first Americans.
The first
Americario. Yes, we was called
people. Oh, sitting at the foothills of the mountains, right? Sitting at the foothills of the mountains of the Appalachian.
Right.
The Appalachian, the Appalachian. You know what I mean? Don't let me, listen, people be thinking, sleep now. I don't speak. No, I'm city boy. I'm a city boy. But I'm well astute into what lineage and shit. I'm into my shit. You know what I mean? Don't ever sleep on me, boy. I've been trying to tell people.
City boys in the swamp, man.
Boy, listen, this Musco give me a room will run up on you. You heard me? I'm playing.
Listen, see that's the thing that we have to realize, that we're not the only ones saying this. Here's what I want people to understand, and who's going to watch this later on and stumble across this video for years later. We're not the only ones saying this. You have your Dane Callaways, you got the Johnny Aborigines, you got the Chito Pods, you got the Autonomous Party. You got, how many of us are? And because everyone is deep diving and they are conquering and they're dealing with so many different facets of the information. It's so much substantiated information out there that all of us are touching on the same thing, but touching on different resources and links and historical references that come on. If we all sat down in a conference and it was a debate to be had with all of us who have gotten this information versus everyone who says we're lying, you're not going to win.
Trouble.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win. There is no historically scientific way you. Thank you. Stop playing the games. You can attack me. That's why I keep telling everybody. I can be that face that they attack. But y'all better not let them attack me too long without dropping facts on them. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind being the bad person, but don't allow the ignorance to continue, because there is plenty.
You know what's crazy? I got one more thing too about this. I wanted to read this is from obviously Carolina Genesis, everybody, for anybody that know. You know what I'm saying? Edited by Scott Withrow, you know what I mean? The editor. And it's on page 63 of this book. All right. And that's why I'm gonna go back and read another part of this actual link. God, Green, you put it in the chat for everybody too, for everybody that want it. I want everybody to take that with them, right? So where it says the earliest appearance of a variant of the name Amorgarkhan in the land that eventually became the United States is recorded by the Spanish in 1680 as a Macaris, a tribal name contained in the title of the Florida mission El Nombre de Dios Amacaris. It says, which was acknowledged as a Yamassee town located in Timucua province of La Florida. Swanton, go check him out, applied the name Amacaris as the original name of the Yamakra. Is it an abbreviated form of the name Yamassee appears in South Carolina records as Yamassee Amassi. Yeah, and John R. Swanson, Early History of the Creek Indians and Their Neighbors, Gainesville, University of Florida, 1922. If you needed the source, you know what I'm saying. Outside of that too, now, funny enough, it's gonna say a compounded prefixed amagari or amakari. I like to say amakario. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my ex-Lucy Amakario out there. You feel me? This is what happened.
But see, remember in one of the clubhouse chat and everything, and somebody was going at another dude about the Tamuquin, right? And I had cut in, remember? And he was like, "No, I'm talking to him." I said, "And I'm speaking to you, dealing with the Tamuquin." And I said, and actually, it wasn't even much pronounced Tamuquin. It was actually Chamuquin because it was CHI. But the Spanish in them couldn't pronounce it, so they put the TI in there to say Tamuquin.
I'm
gonna be quiet from now on. I'm gonna be quiet because this ain't my show no more. This ain't me talking. This is y'all. I ain't gotta say no more.
So because this is what happened. Remember the dude was trying to say that the Tamuquin, right? They said that the chief was the name of the French, and they said that was dealing with Morocco. And I said, no, that's not dealing with the Moroccan. Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm
and
gonna
I
say
said,
is,
no,
what I'm
that's
gonna say is this, and because I know it's such a big deal, because again, what happens a lot of times is we get caught up in language in a way that people they miss the big picture, and we will never be able to address things that everyone wants to address. Let's firstly say that, okay, Matt and Pa. So there's gonna be people who are going to come back later on in his live, and they're gonna say, well, the proper terminology is, and they're going to come up with whatever they want to come up with and all. But at the end of the day, these are still American words that we're using. Okay. The thing that I want to reference and what I do and what I want people to really realize is the simplification of this whole thing. What Mac just read in Carolina Genesis identifies again the Yamassee and the terminology that was used and the description and words that was used as the Amakarisi or the Amakario, right? The Amagorikakans. These were different names, as I said earlier in this show, that we went by. There are a ton of names that the Yamassee went by, and even the word Yamassee, which is one of the oldest words. So you can find our name in many different countries. Can't make this up. But even within that, each name that you see used has a unique story. And if you are not astute, you will miss the whole picture. But to simplify all of it, you're still talking about them same Negroes, them same niggas.
Right.
You mean let's just simplify it and dumb it down. You're still talking about the same niggas, right? Same Negroes, because that's what they try to use. So that is the power of this story and why you all have to tell it. This is why you have to share the historical information that we're given, the stuff that Mac just read, the stuff that Pa's talking about, the references that we talk about. And like I just said today, I try my best. I'm on level 1 right now. I ain't even went to DEFCON 10. I'm on level 1. I'm talking in the most simplistic form when I do interviews and I'm doing podcasts and I'm talking to people, because I don't want people to get caught up in the language. I'm not going to be like, the Aboriginal, indigenous, because sometimes that's too much for people, especially when you talk to your elders. When you're talking to your elders, you're trying to get them to understand the fallacy. You're trying to get them to understand the Indian side of their bloodline and the family, not the African side. I can't use autonomous or Aboriginal and Indian. No, I can't do that. I have to say Indians. I have to use simple words and simplistic words, because I need the elders to catch on to this, because our elders were the ones who were programmed first, because remember, they was watching these cowboy and Indian movies back in the days, back in the 1940s and 50s, and they had these white men running around here with them damn little fake plaits on and that bad lace front. And so our elders started believing, well, damn, I know my grandmama was Indian, but she ain't look like that. So then they just became niggas. Right? We got elders who be like, oh, them just black folks. Why? Because as long as we don't dumb down the information for people, as long as we don't simplify it, we have to start teaching this information in ways that a third grader can get it, but correlate it back to the historical references, right? Because it's one thing to sound smart. You can use the biggest words you ever want to use to describe or to identify the Aboriginal people. But if a person don't understand it, then what have you really done? How have you really helped them? So I'm saying for those who are watching this, you take this information, you reference it, you take and you read it thoroughly. You do exactly what Mac just did. He's reading it to try to get everybody to understand. Like, he already knows it. We already know this information. It ain't for us. It is the reawakening of our people. The reawakening of that thing that's been tapping into your soul that you've been trying to figure out, like, something's just wrong. Something ain't right. I don't feel connected to this thing that people have been calling me and identifying me as. It's reawakening that inner warrior that you're connected through to your DNA, and then having that inner warrior wake up and be like, okay, mission accepted, assignment understood. And now you sharing the story and you fighting. You know what I'm saying? We can't be the only ones on the battlefield taking the shots from the musket balls, taking the arrowheads and the arrows coming shooting at me. I can't be the only one. The information that I'm sharing is being shared so that you all feel connected to this information and be able to rewrite history. Not rewrite history as a new beginning, rewrite history to make people aware of the truth and the fallacies that's been told, and that there were a group of people who they came here saw that gave them hell. And we did such a great job at it that they had to rename us. They stopped being called MacArthur. They started calling him Dick. yeah, the Dick family over here.
I don't want to be called that at all. Paul.
Yeah, goddamn. What happened? So you're just gonna write MacArthur out, huh?
Oh, you heard me.
You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? That's my point. That's my point.
Paul.
So that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, that when I can't beat you, I just rename you something.
Right.
When I can't beat you no more, I just rename you. If you can't reference your name, how can I find you? How can I find who you are? How am I find you if I can't reference your name? So I change.
Right. What's Sekhu? What's crazy is that the word America comes from Amakario, Amakaris.
Man, I've been saying this for 12 years.
The copper-colored Aboriginal people that they're describing using the term American is actually the southeastern tribe of people, the Appalachian people. We are those people that was in the southeast that they were describing when the Spanish came in contact at St. Augustine. Nombre de Dios Amacaris. The noun is Amacaris. The people sitting at the foothills of the mountains of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
North America. I mean, I'm not talking about South America. So even though it's crazy, and because I know we don't, like you said, we have to do a part 2. South America.
Well, you got that down there in South America too.
Right.
For the name of mountain range.
Panama, right. Before it was in St. Augustine, it was down there in Panama. What's crazy is that the Hittite language, before we go, one thing you can give the people about, isn't it connected to the Mayan?
Oh, don't start. Don't start. Don't start. Because see, that's don't start. Because hold on. We ain't gonna do this. We ain't gonna do this because we ain't gonna do this. We can end the show on this right there. We can end the show on this. Because see, Lord. Yeah, listen.
I got so 30 things out
I'm gonna say 13 years ago, I said something like that. 13 years ago. People were like, this nigga crazy. I just remember a new history YouTube show that just came out where they're talking about, the Mayans in Georgia. The Mayans are in Georgia. Man, this is facts.
But that wasn't only in Georgia, though.
Hold on. Back up. We're gonna go back to Americario. We're gonna talk about the copper tone color people. Remember, because when you start talking that way, now we culture vultures again. Hey man, I got to go, man. Listen, I done turned 35 for like so many more years, and so it's hard for a 35-year-old to stay up this late, man. Y'all messing with my 35-year-old sleep. I'm just saying.
You gotta go drink some
more. Starting problems again.
Y'all got people married. I gotta be younger than you, so I'm going back 30 years old for the next 10 years.
We going backwards. That's what we doing. That's the assignment, because you are the way you feel, and I feel 35, sir.
All right, then. You doing a service. I know you're doing. I know you're doing a service with the fire department, man, as well in your community.
Yes,
man.
Yes.
And so as a person, as a Native American chief of the Yamassee tribe, and doing things in your community, like getting involved with the fire station and being a fireman, still showing that you are involved in your community so people get to see you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, they say, look, earlier you talked about me. I don't got no grades in them, but I see you, like you said, I see why you said it. You got the top hidden eagle. You know what I'm talking about? It's
Yes,
starting to
sir.
get
Yes,
great.
sir.
It's starting to
That's
get great.
35 years of hair right there. That's 35 years of gray hair.
35 years, what's that? It's wisdom. That's what it is. It's wisdom.
Facts. Say blessing, you know,
Nah,
regardless. All
appreciate you.
games set aside, man. It's a blessing to be able to be community. It's a blessing to be able to see 35 again. And it's definitely a blessing to be able to rekindle relationships and see family members that when my journey started, is still here and still at it. But more than anything, what I'll say to everyone before we get off of this, and I try to reiterate this to people, that I'm a servant. You know what I'm saying? I do the fire department thing, and I'm a part of the EMS Society and first responders because my people, my tribe is out here. This is my family that's in Allendale. And you know, who should they see but their chief when they have an emergency, and me show up and be there for them to the best of my ability. And that's what I try to tell people, that don't get it mistaken. All these people saying chief this, chief this, chief this. If you're not a servant to the people, stop saying that, because a chief is not a dictator. A chief is not, quote, a leader. A chief is a voice for the people. And that's what I am. You know what I mean? You know, that's what we should be. So thank you for acknowledging that part of it, man. And I appreciate you recognizing what I do for the community as it's set aside, because truth be told, man, I don't know no other chiefs that is doing this and willing to risk their lives doing it, running into burning buildings or car accidents. And, you know, before even coming into the show, I was showing you footage of certain situations we ain't gonna talk about because of privacy, but you know, it's what we do, Mac. But thank you, man. I appreciate everything you and Kofi is doing. God of Green, I gotta stop calling him by his name, God of Green. And miss y'all, man. You know, I plan on coming down there soon because I got to go down to the Miccosukee Reservation and chop it up with a family member down there. But thank y'all, man, for inviting me out. This won't be the last time, brother. Invite me.
Definitely. I'll be in contact with you, man. We're gonna talk. You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up.
And when I make my way up that way too, I'll pull up to the reservations, check y'all out. You know how that go. You know what I'm saying?
Just let me know, man, so we can, you know how we do, barbecue it up, and you know, all the other good stuff we're gonna do, man. Just let me know.
All right, for sure. Appreciate it, man. None but love. Hey, Paul, for you, I'm gonna let you get out of here. Pause. Anything you want to say? We're gonna play a couple songs. We're gonna get out of here. What you say? Paul, you smiling? Go ahead. Paul is over there smiling. So Paul over there like a kid, he's smiling like a candy store, boy. A pot of gumbo.
That's my little cousin, Big Chief. That's him.
That's him, huh?
That's him, cuz. That's him, cuz. Shit. Yeah, I don't let him I don't let him attack him. Bullshit. You know, the sleeping bear wake up and come out that motherfucking den. You know what I'm saying? You know, so yeah. That's what that's dealing with.
I got a lineup for y'all, man. Teddy T told me to say what's up. I forgot to tell Sekhu that too. Wild man Teddy T told me he want to get y'all on the Axe Mathis show. You know what I'm saying? So
all right, yeah.
You know what I mean? I do an interview on the radio station down here too. You know what I'm saying? With Axe Mathis and all that. So I'm gonna reach out to him and have y'all. I'm gonna line that up for y'all to get with Teddy.
For sure.
You feel me? But yeah, man. We appreciate y'all pulling up on us.
We
been knowing people. Look, we've been knowing people for a very long time in this community. You know what I'm saying? And you know, Paul, you know, I see people because of the wave of how this YouTube thing worked. Because I was out here before we did YouTube. Like I was doing this conferences and paying out my pocket to go places and having people come see me. And you know what I mean? Like you said, it's a big responsibility. I had to take a little break. I was young. And to get your family in situation, I'm like, yo, you got to get your family right. You know what I'm saying? All the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I always tell people, put your family first. At the same time, though, of what I learned in the process of that time frame and where I'm at now, and that's doing the Thomas Party, obviously the podcast, social club, and all our faith-based initiatives are set up to awaken people to this information. You know what I mean? We're not giving you a Bible sermon every Sunday, but we definitely are giving you that work. You know what I'm talking about? Source awards. Shout out to Nine Ether. That's what he like to say. You know what I mean? He say that. Source Awards. You know what I mean? So, and I'm gonna stick to the facts of the script, man. When I met people and certain things happen, but we all know what it really is when we get down to why we came together and why we do what we do. And that's why it's great. Like you out there in Louisiana, I heard what the Washita are doing. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Washita right now. I heard they're waking up and making some noise. You know what I'm saying? Some things are finally taking some situations over there. Shout out to them. You know what I mean? You're right.
Right.
I'm acknowledged when I go over there too. I'm good over there too. You feel me? I'm good in the hood. I'm outside with it. Feel me? Right out here, I can go some places. We can touch some reservations and be straight. Either way. Shout out to Firebird, the Muskogee Maroons. You know what I mean? We got some shit popping, man. And
yeah, we've been doing this more than a decade. More than a decade. You know. Oh, my brother from another mother just dropped.
Yeah. Shout out my man Glenn, man. Shia, what's up, Shia Jones? What's up, Chito, man? See, that's another Jones out there. All the time about me and Jones, we get along. Yeah, man, definitely. We try to, as you see the date there, we got invited to the Thomas party. You know what I mean? We just waiting for the confirmation, but he just put it out there. He just, hey, Glenn, you put this out there. You feel me? So it says the Aboriginal Festival. You know what I mean? St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, November 5th. You know what I mean? We plan on pulling up. You know what I'm saying? If everything happens where it's supposed to. So I'm putting it out there too, in all good faith. It was supposed to be in October. They pushed it back a month, but we still trying to make it happen. You know what I mean? I ain't mad at it. We gonna try to make something happen. You know, that's the Thomas thing to do. I remember last time we drove to Louisiana, boy, let me tell you, 4 of us rode 4 deep in the rental car, and we got there. We had to get where we had to get. So, Paul, man, before we get out of here, man, appreciate you, bro. What you got to say before we slide?
Man, look, you already know, baby. Look, a sister just said that somebody was in the chat hating, but they can hate all they want. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. It ain't stopping nothing. You heard me? We know who we be. I don't know, but she said the dude Terrence or something, Terrence Grant in the chat is hating. You know what he hating on? Because see, I can't see the chat.
Everybody ain't gonna like it. Hey, everybody ain't paying attention to it. It's all good. Everybody got their opinions, but we got facts. Unless you got something to show us in the archive that we got, then I don't know what to tell him. You know, my lineage ain't lining up to whatever he talking about. But however the case might be, I don't know why he wasting his time over here with us. He can go hang out with his like-minded group of people. What are you doing this for? He wasting his time. At the same time, though, man, don't worry about it, Paul. I'm gonna holler at you. You know, probably this week, something like that.
I got that. I don't worry about none of that. You heard me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna keep it moving, man. Esther Lucy, absolutely.
Yeah.
Esther Lucy, yeah, definitely. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, it's making moves, baby. You know,
for sure.
It's all thing.
Yeah, man.
We not only talk about it, we do about it. You know, because the thing is, what you gonna do and leave for your children as an inheritance? That's that part. Like you said, Mac, you gotta get together. How many people getting their family together? They doing all this talking on YouTube and everything. You know, you got internet Indians. There's a difference. We are Indians on the internet. That's a big difference, baby. Big difference.
Some people gonna hate that too. They ain't acknowledged in real life yet. So the fact that we now online talking about our real life situations and movements and organizations that we have going on in real life, some people get offended by the real, but it's all good though. You know what I mean? No hype. Yeah. We just gonna keep doing what we doing. We've been doing it. Ain't nothing new. You know what I mean? Thriller's been around for a minute now. It's just getting bigger and it's getting better. And we just getting with age, you know what I mean? The harsh reality is live life a time. This is a campaign that we've been on. We've been on it for a minute now. You feel me? We just now we crossing over to give you this information that we talking about right now. So yeah, Blaze, man, we gonna get Blaze a couple of joints when we get out of here, man. And Pop, man, I appreciate you and Chief pulling up, man, from the Yamassee. Let's go get Creek Nation. You dig?
Look, we ain't dropping all the heavy shit yet.
No, we're gonna have to come back for that one, man. We can't do that in this first time. We saw y'all was telling me to back up, so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna squeeze it in. I ain't gonna do that. That'll be a disservice. We're gonna do a part 2. I'm gonna check the schedule out because you know we got some shit. You gonna be back in next month with 9 Ethan when we do the Pirates of the Caribbean joint. You know what I mean?
Oh, you already know. Hey, look, That got something to go in that too.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that more in a minute too. You know what I mean? That's why I don't want to go. We can wait. Every Sunday they got to say how to tap in, or they can come after the fact and watch it at their own time, autonomously. You heard me? So appreciate you, bro. Have a good night, man.
Fam, all the time.
Maranatha to you. It's a blessing. You know what I mean? I'm a Cario. To my Amakario people outside, out there listening to what we're doing. Appreciate you for tapping in. The harsh reality is live life autonomously. That's why we call the Autonomous Party. And obviously, we want you to tap in, like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Go to theautonomousparty.com and check us out. And obviously, you see, you know, we align with certain groups of people that are like-minded like us. You know what I mean? We can go places outside for real. We touching out. I'm trying to tell you, we touching places now, for real time. Blaze, Pa, man, I see you. I'll talk to you this week, man. I'm gonna hit you on the jack. You heard me?
Look, you know what the thing is? We can go outside. In Jesus' name, we can go outside. You heard me? Yeah, we can go outside. I ain't holding on no Jesus piece. I got a red stick. You heard me? Yes. Woo-wee.
Till next time, y'all. You already know what it is. Next week, Sunday, tap in with us. We see y'all then. Till next time, peace.
All right, what?
Peace, Pop.
This could take quite a bit of time.
Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces. How the fuck you butt me and broke with a pair of races? My lineage free people of color with a left make each nigga. This right here maroon, now it ain't burgundy. If you plotting murder, I'm certain that you'll need surgery. Hurt from when the burner squeeze. Protecting tribe business. Only consulting with governments, tried to tribe with it. Please don't confuse us with those considered native. Semi-autonomy never was in our nature. Just address me as Esther Lucy. Wild Indian status and Cherokees riding Bruchis. In my war bonnet, if you want it, bring it to your region. And black force is the same color the European. Pardon my autonomy. I know one day they'll honor me. This ain't pertaining to 28 Deuteronomy. Self-determination, controlling our situation. Ain't no more indoctrination from pale faces.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white aborigine. Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines, but you don't let them be called aborigines.